This is the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Subcommittee meeting for June 2nd, 2014. Roll call first. Technical glitches first. Technical glitches first. Roll call. It's okay, he's getting it.
Wait a second.
What if these two conflict?
That's not official, no.
That makes it more
How
reliable.
official is that?
I don't even know.
Shall we
So,
do
I
introductions?
have a low battery, I think I have to go get batteries, so.
That's not good.
So we're not allowed to start till you can.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what I
as far as I'm
recorded.
concerned, we can start.
Well, I'll share this with you if you have a problem.
If there's some.
Can you share just the audio file with the city? Because I think that's what they have.
Well, since we have.
Sure, I guess I could if I had
Just like go
to.
really quick, Marcy.
I'm trying to find, I haven't done this yet, and I remember Valerie also like trying to figure it out.
Well, we can call a roll here while we're here.
Okay.
Should we start from this end? Just for the heck of it?
Sure.
Okay.
Sarah, planning. Betsy Beasley, member. Jennifer West, council.
Ken Bukowski, resident.
I don't see it.
Brian Donahue, member.
Laura McCaney, member.
Scott Donahue, member.
Celeste Rogers, member.
Tom Moda, chair.
Mike Roberts, Public Works.
Robert Prince from Vikings Bay.
Maurice is here somewhere, right?
He went to get some paperwork.
Because he's going to
Okay.
present.
So, do we have any public comment for items that are not on our agenda today? Guess you're the only one who qualifies.
I'll pass.
I'll pass on that. And,
Tom, can I make a quick public, I'm just afraid I'll forget this, a public comment for an item not on the agenda as a member of the public.
That's supposed to be,
I know, we're
Committee-
supposed to do
member
it at the
committee
end,
comments.
but I'm gonna
Well, you
forget by
know,
then.
you
I
can't
just
remember
wanted,
it.
I just wanted to tell, because Ken and I were stopped at a light and we couldn't get the light to turn, and I just wanted to tell Mike that there's something wrong with the sensor for the left turn heading westbound from Stanford to turning left onto Hollis.
Yep.
And that sensor goes out all the time, I don't know why. The straight ahead sensor works fine for bikes. The left sensor, we've had trouble
Probably
with it
some
since it was
crossfade.
installed, so I don't know if it's faulty or
You said
why.
which
that-
one it was again?
Westbound Stanford to southbound Hollis.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
We've
had the same
that
problem 3 times in the last week, so.
Yeah, I
remember.
have ended up just moving over to the right sensor and then turning left from the right lane, but, or a car comes.
maybe they've been messing with it for the trucks.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of traffic turning left there, heavy I don't know what, but that's been a problem
Yeah.
spot for years.
No, maybe because the trucks were coming across it or something. you know.
But it's the left turn, you'd think it would get less traffic. Anyway, thank you for noting that, if that can get looked into that.
Well, while we're on that, sometimes the light changes green and then as soon as you go, it changes back to red.
On Stanford?
Yeah, like as soon as you start moving, it changes right back to red and
no
green.
yellow.
Yeah,
goes
without a
right
yellow.
here.
Yeah, without yellow.
Yeah, that's Stanford light does that sometimes.
That's not the
yeah.
only light that does that.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
couple others that were in
Yeah.
Berkeley that were doing that
Well,
for a while.
And, yeah, that
They
light.
say they fixed it.
And the one on Bow Street, the one crossing Powell Street, if somebody's coming from both directions, the person who gets there first gets a green light, the other person doesn't until they hit the sensor, which means that if a car is coming across opposite direction from me and they are crossing the street, my light is still red, which I don't think makes sense. Or if someone pushes a walk button on one side of the street, the light does not turn green in both directions. It only turns green for one direction of traffic. And I said that to Maurice and he was like, or someone, and they were like, no, that can't be right, but I've been checking it out, it is. So I don't know if it's meant to be like that, but I don't think that's a good design. If that could be looked into, that would be awesome.
So there's a lot of those that do kind of like a false positive for there. You think you're there and then I think there
You're
must
like,
be
oh,
a sensor that's designed for cars that turn right,
Right,
some of these
exactly.
things.
Yeah, that was.
And if you don't actually, if that vehicle doesn't actually go into the intersection,
It turns right back.
Yep.
right,
Yeah, that must be it, because I've had that experience too. Not as much lately though, because I think the sensors are doing better. Thank you for letting me comment.
all right, so approval of the Cinco de Mayo minutes.
Where are they?
They're right here.
They're on the middle.
Oh, okay.
you, Betsy.
Oh, I'm sorry, here. Can you pass one back to me? I just need one. Here, sorry, thank you.
And while you're looking at those minutes,
So this is the June 2nd, 2014 BPAC meeting, starting a little later than a quarter.
while you're looking at the minutes, I'm just wondering if maybe we could take item C of the action items and move it up in front of A.
Fine with me. Should we do, but that's the next item, Tom, that's approval of the agenda.
Yeah.
To approve the agenda when we're 4 items into it?
That's what we do. You can't change the
How
first
do you
three.
do that?
Okay, the rest of the agenda. If you.
Is that a standing item on our, agenda nowadays?
I've put it in there because it seems like a lot of times you want to move things around and,
okay.
and it can be number 1. It doesn't matter.
I move these minutes.
Okay, somebody that was at the meeting wanna,
Second,
In the minutes, it mentions, where did I just see that? At the June meeting, we're gonna talk about bike share,
Yeah.
but we're not, right?
We're not, yeah, I was gonna talk about that later, but Ann wasn't ready with
Okay.
anything,
So July, we'll talk about that.
what we're hoping.
Can I just ask a quick question since I wasn't here? The East Bay Bridge project, what is that? Just, because I just can't keep the name straight.
Sure. The whole Home Depot area.
Oh, okay.
So there's a major design review permit in to change the facade on the part that has Sports Authority and Starbucks.
Oh,
And so that one block, and so
okay, so, okay,
that's
I
what that's
just
in
got,
regards to.
I got excited and I thought it was the bridge to Bay Street, but no.
No,
I didn't think that was right. Thank you. Yes.
Were the minutes approved?
was moved and
By
seconded, but nobody
acclamation.
voted.
Wow.
so we, moved by acclaim? No complaints? Okay, so, now approval of this agenda, we're gonna take C and put it to A.
Right.
Where do you want to do that?
Huh?
Where do you want to do that?
Because everyone else is gonna be here for the rest of the meeting, and Maurice doesn't need to. So we'd like to put that, and it's our biggest item.
Well, except Maurice is, I need Maurice on item 6.
Has
6A, transparency.
he been subpoenaed for that? And I'm not sure you could.
Well, he should be here to hear at least.
Maybe we can move that up to.
Well, would you
Yeah,
like
we
to
want
move
to.
that into first place?
No,
Do
but I'd like to have that follow,
everything else.
follow the C. Let's just have it directly follow the C, that's what I request. Items 6A follow item 5C. It's only 5 minutes, even though I
Any
asked for 8.
objections?
So it would be, section 5, action items would be, C would be first, Horton Street.
Yes.
And then after that would be the,
6A,
6A,
transparency.
okay.
And then we go up to 5A.
I think the committee, I don't know how.
Okay with me?
Yeah, it's about 5 minutes.
Let's just do it.
Okay.
We used our 2 minutes.
Okay. Do you want a timekeeper? Do you want, I'm happy to keep time on that.
Clock, I can see.
Okay, you got it.
We're pretty loose on these things.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Shall we?
Okay, 40 minutes. All right,
It's a lot of time.
should be enough. Okay, so, the Horton Street Experimental Traffic Calming Project, I'd like to remind everybody, some people are calling it the experiment, the study of the study, but we applied for a grant with MTC, or through CTC, ACTC, to do some actual design work to prepare a plan for us to install some experimental traffic calming measures. So in order to do that project, we need to decide as a city what the scope of work is going to be. so that we can direct the consultant to prepare the plans. And so, as we all know, Horton Street's a bike boulevard. It exceeds the threshold of 3,000 ADT. So what we want to try to do is do an experiment to see if we can bring that number down. And so what I would like to be able to do is to come up with a come up with a recommendation from the BPAC of what it is we want to implement, and go through a process, bringing it ultimately to the City Council to approve that process, or to approve the concept, and then we would start working with the consultant to prepare a scope of work that we can move forward with spending the grant funds. And in the CIP, which is going to be brought to the City Council on June 3rd, we have those funds listed, which is
tomorrow, right?
$36,800.
How much?
$36,800.
That's for the study of the study, or the, what do you
It's
call
to
it?
prepare plans for us to implement,
What are you calling it? What's your preferred term for it?
to prepare a plan.
No, we call it experimental,
The project's called the Horton Street Experimental Traffic Calming.
okay.
Right. So in the CIP, we identified those grant funds, and then an additional $20,000 to spend to implement it, and to study the results of it. So that's what the way this is written out. And then as per the BPAC's recommendation, they wanted us to list potentially some money for the proposed, the permanent improvements that we don't know what they are yet. And so remember, if you might recall, you said, well, let's say $500,000 of unfunded money. That'll be listed in the CIP as well. And it's written on here, it's per the BPAC's recommendation. So with that, I have some ideas of what we could do out there. I mean, I'd like to hear from the BPAC, but it sounds like, we could spend the money to try to slow the traffic down and do chicanes and that kind of thing, temporary necking down. Or we could try to go for, let's try to reduce the volume. We could try to experiment with that by maybe putting up diverters in key locations. If one of the diverter places that was identified in the BPAC or in the bike plan was the location at Horton and 45th. In other words, not allow any cars through going southbound Horton beyond 45th. So any car that's coming southbound Horton would have to make a left turn onto 45th. Any car coming northbound Horton would have to make a left onto Sherwin. So that's one option we could look at, right? We could look at putting diverters at Stanford Avenue, which is a little bit more problematic. We could look at putting diverters up near 62nd Street, which is problematic. But if we decided we want to do diverters, then it would seem like we would have to canvass the whole neighborhood. All the residents in the area would need to know. And then get feedback in front of the City Council. And then ultimately the council will decide to put it in. And then hopefully we don't get a lot of uproar, because we went through a similar process in the Triangle. We worked with the neighborhood groups, and we thought we identified, we noticed everybody. And as soon as we put the temporary improvements in, everybody came out and said, hey, nobody told me this was going on, and the council had us rip it all out. We spent a lot of money, a lot of money.
Let's not do that, right?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat
Yeah,
that.
let's not do that.
So maybe we could just start, hear some feedback, get some ideas. Then once we get a recommendation from the BPAC, we take it to the Transportation Committee, get some recommendation there, and then take it to council. So to figure out a process.
I want to say, if it sounds like, I mean, I like the idea of diverters, but I think that slowing down traffic can have some of the same impact that the people who think that it's a great cut through on the freeway, if they have to go 15 miles an hour, they're not going to be as excited about it. And I think it will reduce some of that through traffic volume without unduly inconveniencing people who need to get to work or to their homes or whatever. They'll still be able to get there. They won't be like, how do I navigate this? So I just want to say maybe that. I ride Horton Street quite a bit. Probably not as much as the people who live on Horton Street. And my problem, I mean, there's a lot of traffic sometimes if I'm there at rush hour, but my biggest problem is not the volume of cars, but the cars who are trying to run me off the road. I mean, that's going to be a great place for the Emeryville police to write tickets for that 3-foot passing law once that goes into effect if they want to. So I think if we can create a roadway where it's clear that bikes have precedence, somehow a lot of the cars that are there don't know that, and I think the local cars probably do. it's the through traffic that doesn't get it and is like, get out of my way, this is my quick cut through, why are you slowing me down? So I'm not sure, you know, what would it take to convey that this is a special street. But-
Right, and
And a slow
again, I
street.
don't wanna, not to repeat myself, but I don't want this, if we know what we wanna design, we can have the designer do it. But it's not to try to come up with ideas to do it for the designer, but the designer's gonna actually design something we tell them to design. So if we wanna design a chicane in this location, they'll come up with that scheme. But they're not gonna come up with, there's not enough money there to come up with ideas and then design.
Okay, to speak to that, and speak to what you're saying, I think at this, late stage, we should not reinvent the wheel, we should just go with what we previously decided, many meetings and over a lot of time, and that is the bicycle-pedestrian, or the pedestrian-bicycle plan. So I think we should kind of just do that. And we've said among ourselves that's what we want to do, and, engine volume isn't a big deal for you, but it is for some other people, and it's in the plan, so I don't think we should drop that at this point, we should just move ahead.
What's in
And
the plan, can you
the
tell
plan
us?
says, here's what it says specifically, right now, we're way past due. We're like a decade past due, almost, to institute level 4 traffic calming. And that is supposed to be temporary, 2 years, and it's supposed to be, so in the form of bollards or K-rail, it's supposed to be temporary. And it's supposed to create one of two, level 4 is one of two ways, it's an option. And so I guess the plan says it's an optional, and either, I guess it's up to us to select either chicanes, which make the traffic zigzag, or what's called a choker, which acts as a one-way bridge. So only one car at a time can go through either way. So those are, the plan says that's our options either. So, and it says to do it at, the plan also says to do it at 2 locations, but it doesn't say where specifically, correct? I think that this,
I don't know that it gives us specifics of where or how many.
It says 2.
Yeah.
It does say 2.
Right,
I've read
I
it.
don't know. I'm not.
You should know at least as good as me. But okay, so that's what the plan says. So and then we look at does this thing that we decide either the chicanes or the chokers, how does that affect the 3,000 vehicle trips? Does it bring us to less than 3? And if it doesn't, after 2 years, then we institute the final level, which is level 5, which is not temporary, which is permanent.
Is that?
And that's a diverter. Those are 2 diverters it calls for the plans. Now,
So you're
and then I
thinking-
wanted to say one thing that we should not get scared of. The more he's talked about something that seemed kind of scary here just now. He said that we have to bring this to the council, and it's going to have to go into the CIP, and that sounds scary, like it's not going to end up happening.
No,
In other words, it's up to the will of the council,
No.
and so it's going to be one of many items competing for the council's pleasure, but it doesn't have to be so onerous. We could have our permanent diverter solution, theoretically 2 years from now, be in the form of K-rail or bollards, that we later on at some future date, when some future council goes, we don't really like those bollards, they're too ugly, let's go ahead and pour concrete, then we could do that. So in other words, it doesn't require a massive spending for the permanent solution, theoretically 2 years from now. So I don't think we should be, we shouldn't hamstring ourselves.
Okay, so I think the developer of the Sherwin-Williams site is assuming that everybody wants to put a diverter in at Horton.
That's
And they're showing
probably,
that on the,
it's a good, that's
so if we wanted them to do that and build it for
Oh, they would
us,
build it.
This is
Great.
Horton.
Horton at 45th.
we could put the
So
money in it.
going north, you'd then have to turn right and go,
If you're going north and you're on Horton when you shouldn't be,
yeah.
and you
It'll
get
make
to,
you go to
you have to make a left on Sherwin and come
Oh.
around.
Well, what we could is we could take the money that he, and we just take the money and put it in a
So you
special
put a
account.
diverter that goes past the sign that says coming soon.
So
600.
am I hearing right now that the BPAC's not interested in diverters right now? They want to just do.
No, you're not hearing that.
I don't,
You're
that was
hearing
one
him.
person.
No, I'm just
said
saying that's
that.
what
That was
that's
me.
what the plan says, and I
mean,
And if what I'm saying, let me qualify what I'm saying. If what I'm saying would end up, because of the will of this council, somehow not end up achieving fruition 2 years from now, then I would change it, because I am interested ultimately in diverters. Because I personally think, and it's my opinion, it's not scientific, that that's what we're gonna need to have to keep under 3,000.
so if 3,000 is supposed to be our number,
No more than
and
that.
what's our the last hard numbers that anybody had?
They're taken annually by Novartis. I haven't seen the latest.
The last I saw, the lowest was 4,800 in one spot, and up over 12,000 in another spot.
Where is that up
Okay,
at?
I have a
Cross
question.
station?
Yeah.
Level
that
4?
is somewhat
Sure.
relevant to
Level
the
four.
discussion, which
Yeah,
is,
we're supposed to
what
be doing
is
level
the
four right
most recent bike count for Horton?
now. What does that have to do with?
Well, just because there's auto traffic of 4,800, what is the bike traffic?
What is that, how does that inform us?
Because that informs something about as it goes forward. I mean, it's a part of the, they're both traffic. What?
I don't have the counts now,
We're
but
not
we
gonna be
have,
diverting.
we have
bikes.
counts on 40th and Horton, which could give us an idea, but we've never really taken counts for bicycles somewhere mid-block somewhere.
Because, Scott, can you understand?
what was-
What does that have to do with? what
Just
we're-
because when we're talking about this, it's traffic calming, but we have traffic growing, not just in auto traffic and truck traffic, but bicycle traffic is growing. And I just want to know what it is. So it's just a question. If anybody knows, what was it at 40th?
I don't have the number, but this information we have, we can get.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So whatever happened to the idea of diverting traffic at 40th Street? Or the thing that says don't go through during rush hour? or
Yeah,
whatever
that
sign
doesn't,
was,
that
that everyone ignores.
Right,
There's a sign
I
there,
don't
yeah.
think everyone, people even see it. Can I just say, I'm just looking at the bike plan. So level 5 is full and partial closures and diverters. Level 4 is, and yeah, it's, and all of it, what basically, you just keep adding one more thing with each level. But level 4, there's a bunch of stuff we haven't done that's in level 3 and 4, which is crossing improvements at major streets, high visibility crosswalks, median islands, I mean, there aren't big crossings, most of this on Horton, but improve visibilities of bicyclists with forward stop bars at lights and bicycle crosswalks. Maybe that doesn't apply. Vertical speed control, which was speed humps, cushions, and tables. Horizontal speed control, which is chicanes, traffic circles, and curve extensions. And then narrowings like chokers, neck downs, pinch points, and center, well, there's no center island. So I think we've been talking about a pinch point, and also you were bringing up chicaning the
Yeah,
street.
some people wanted a pinch point near where the creek goes under, right? Because it was kind of a natural thing.
I think, we were talking about doing a pinch point where there's already a crosswalk, or where there was talk of moving the crosswalk, and that was really all about what Novartis needed. I don't have that.
My personal opinion on those items, I think they will all help to try to reduce the speed, but right now we're getting a lot of cut-through traffic, a lot of cars,
Make it unpleasant
especially,
for
there's a
them.
lot of FedEx trucks up and down the street every morning. I
Gotten
mean,
way worse recently.
It's just, it's their way to get from the
Yes.
FedEx distribution facility at 63rd and Overland down to, 880 probably.
Yeah, I've clocked them at over 45, 50 miles an hour.
Oh.
Yeah, they just race down
And
the
they go
street.
through the stop
So I mean,
signs.
we could talk to FedEx and try to get them to stop using it, but I don't know that you're gonna get.
Well,
them. So-
you have to slow them down.
Yeah, so these,
I think.
this could slow
yeah.
down the cars, the things that are level 4, but it won't, I don't think it's gonna reduce the,
Volume.
I think
most of the cars don't belong there, they shouldn't be on that street.
Right.
I think the
Right.
drivers are the most,
They should be
are the most
crawling,
annoying thing to a driver to come across, and you'd stop using it as a cut.
they should be crawling at 8 miles an hour on the freeways.
Here's what, I think the current condition of Horton is that it's very nice for bicycling, there aren't a lot of stops, it's wide, you can just go right through, and that makes it very nice for cars. And what we need to do is make it still very nice for bicycles, with little bike-only through things, and very not so nice for cars. So if you have to go somewhere on Horton Street, you'll do it, but you're not gonna use it. And I will tell you that I live, near there, and my neighbors in their cars, and me sometimes too, if I'm on occasions I'm driving a car, drive on Horton Street instead of Hollis, because it's just so convenient, and there's, a lot of times of the day, there's not much traffic. So let's make it not convenient. And I guess that's the question, is what is the best way
Well,
to
how about
do it?
convenient and slow?
Well,
Well,
right.
that's what the bike
Let,
plan.
let's make it,
Yeah.
what, it not
Right, I
pleasant,
guess.
it's a very pleasant environment for cars, and because it's so wide, especially if there aren't parked cars, they can get up to those
Well,
ridiculous
it's
speeds.
really wide, and typically, you know, they're just blasting, the trucks anyway, they're going really fast, because there's no center line striping.
Right.
It feels wider because there's no striping.
So we need to make it feel narrower and slow them down, and that could be through chicanes, it could be through neck downs where it gets very, very narrow and they have to go, you know,
Right.
it could be
So, well-
speed humps.
Ma'am?
So I've floated the idea of diverters myself, even though it's not the called for next step, because I'm concerned, I don't feel like there are a lot of eyes on that street in terms of enforcement and how you would slow down cars and then make sure, it has to be something that works by itself, I feel like. It's not like the police are gonna be sitting on Horton making sure cars are going the right speed. That's kind of my perception. It's not.
Maybe you want the sleeping police.
So-
But the reason I think a diverter is a good idea, I'm concerned about the choke point. I don't have many examples of a choke point. In fact, I can't think of one that I know of, a choke point, sorry. I'm worried about what I heard Novartis folks say, and just a kind of an offhand comment that, wow, that seems dangerous, cars head to head.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned about that. The chicane I've seen at Milvia, I know in Berkeley, I don't know how well that works. I mean, Milvia has the
It's got speed
bonus of
bumps
having
also.
extremely car-friendly streets just near it, you know, so
Well, there's an extremely car-friendly street right
Hollis.
near it. It's called
Hollis, but
Hollis.
not on the other side, so it depends on where you're going in terms of that.
It's an extremely
So
train.
that's why I don't feel like any of the level 4 sound like the perfect thing for Horton, and that's just kind of my gut feeling. But I also wonder about this process, that I'm not a bike expert in terms of what is gonna slow down traffic, and if we're paying someone to design it, but we're not gonna get any expert advice about what's the best way to actually address this issue, you know, maybe you all know more than I do about this, but I wonder about just having the community choose, unless we have a wide enough input that we feel like everyone's bought into it and this is, you know, unanimous decision. We are gonna come up against people freaking out when it gets in. So I'm a little concerned about that. I think diverters are things that people recognize. We see them lots and lots and lots of places, Berkeley mostly. But I feel like that's something that is like, oh, this isn't strange, it just means I have to turn, you know, it's not something I've never seen before. So that's my bias, I guess, towards a diverter, and I feel like the way the streets are set up, a diverter wouldn't be so strange, because we have those 2T intersections. You know, I had recommended at least that Sherwin-Williams show it on the plans if they're serious about traffic calming on Horton, and they did. That doesn't mean it's a foregone conclusion at all with council, I would say, but I'm concerned about all level 4. I don't feel like standing alone they're going to take care of the needs as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons I asked for that was because I don't think we're gonna get down to 3,000 or under just by this. Though we could make it a lot more pleasant place to be with a bunch of cars if you made cars slow down and you put parking on the east side of Fort Worth. Get rid of that stupid red zone. If there's one kid with a homemade pipe bomb, there's no reason to take public streets away just because Novartis feels threatened, I think. That and some, you know, cutouts, some trees, it looks pretty barren along that way right now. And honestly, I think that eventually bike boulevards or bike streets will have to have a slower posted speed limit.
Yeah.
And I think
Where that
18
process
is
is.
actually the way to go, but it's probably gonna be like 20 or something like that. Be like a, you know, like a school zone or something, and then.
Just a
Ryan,
quick
and then
response, Tom.
Scott.
I think Novartis needs to have buy-in to whatever we do as well. I think if we just insist on putting parking there, we may not get their support also with other things, so just.
They're not gonna move out of town, are they?
I've
Is a
heard
couple
that there's
people
actually,
parked there?
I mean, they
just
sold,
sold most
yeah, most of it is now owned by a different company there. Also from
And-
the.
I
mean,
Griffith.
They're here. They're here. And there.
Okay, I just want to say real quick, like, regarding the experts, we actually have paid experts already. We paid them
Right.
$200,000 for the
Right.
plan. And then the plan tells us to do it the way that they tell us to do it.
But
However,
couldn't we have a conversation with them? I
Sure,
mean, I
yeah.
think the plan is kind of, it sits on
Yeah, okay. All right, now I just want to say this, I want to make
It's
this,
not even gonna work with
I want to make sure everybody's clear that, first off, I'm not going to be insisting that we do it the exact way that the plan says to do it. I'm willing to skip level 4, go directly to level 5. But one thing that I think that the committee or the group here should decide is a no-go, and that is to continue to allow more than 3,000. In other words, we should all agree that that's what the plan says, and that's what we should do no matter what way we come up with it. In other words, 3,000 or less is what we're going for, and that I think I'm willing to go with any idea that
3,200 or 3,100.
no, yeah, I'm willing to do with any idea that anybody wants to do, as long as we come up with the 3,000, as long as that's the place where we end up.
Well, that's our goal.
Can I say,
Doesn't mean we're gonna get that result. no matter
Well,
what we do.
diverter would almost.
Diverter would do it.
Well, diverter
For
every
one
block.
stretch.
If you had to,
One
you
big
could do
long
diverter
block
every-
kind of artist that
Well,
would
yeah,
not
whatever.
have that type of.
Diverters will give us less than
The
3,000.
diverters will cut out the pass-through traffic.
Yeah.
It'll make it more of a local street.
That's right, yeah,
So that in itself will drop
yeah.
the volume.
that would probably do it.
Now, speeding could still happen, but you could take care of that in the next step. You know, first you deal with the
Level
volume.
5 and then level 4.
Yeah. Yeah, start with 5, you bring the volume down.
So I'm not
then-
wed
Or
to-
do we start, by slowing them down so that they don't, whiz by us or sideswipe us, and then divert them later?
Well, the beauty of going to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would love
Ask
to
me a
do a
question.
diverter right now, if we could, but I think it's a political question. The blowback, I'm afraid of, the political blowback could be significant. And, I'm just thinking out loud, but, when Sherwin-Williams development occurs, the volume of local traffic is going to skyrocket, and the community and the number of people on the street is going to skyrocket. A diverter at 45th and Sherwood would make our neighborhood so livable for the dog walkers now and the pedestrians of the future, because it would make that entire new complex of maybe 1,000 people have a pedestrian-friendly stroll to get further east. So I think that
Like a
is
mini-
really going to
like a
work for
mini
the
park.
future development. And I think it would be a significant livability improvement for the neighborhood, and it would help with the bike traffic of the future and make Horton a real bike boulevard. And the traffic count is really going up with bicyclists. It's amazing. Bicyclists are traffic. There's a lot, it just seems like that is constantly rising. However, the experience of the Triangle was pretty something. That blowback that you
Oh, yeah,
received was significant. And, that, we have to think about that.
So the blowback you'll get, I could see, is if you have the typical vehicle coming up from 40th, going straight up Horton, that wants to go all the way through, we'll have to make a left, and you've got 1500 Park and Blue Star Corner. They're going to be getting the brunt of all that traffic that they never had to experience before. And then all those vehicles, if it's a truck, they'll come through there, and then they'll have to go all the way up Park Avenue. There's no intersections on Park that they can turn, so they'll have to go all the way back up to Horton, to Hollis
Yeah.
to turn.
Yeah.
The other issue you'll have is that Novartis has a warehouse just south of Sherwood. And so if they have trucks that they're coming down Horton Street
Just north.
from the north, they're coming from the
Okay,
north.
that's just-
They
warehouse
can't get
is-
They'll
through,
have to
so,
go around.
so they're gonna have to go all the way around to 40th to come in. So Hollis to 40th to come in, because they can't go Hollis to Park to Horton, they gotta go all the way around.
It's
So those are gonna be the.
It's a wonderful idea.
So can I say a couple things? One thing I want to say is I think I want to disagree with you, Brian, and I can't pull it up right this second, but I'll try to find it. I think what the plan said about boulevard metrics is if you have a volume more than 3,000, then you reduce the speed. If you can't get
No.
the volume more than 3,000,
No.
well, I'll see if I can find it, because I want to respectfully disagree. I don't think that's
We've been
what
over
it
this
said.
so many times. Ask Peter
Right, and
Schultz
I've
Allen.
disagreed with you every time.
Well,
But
Peter
maybe I'm
Schultz
wrong.
Allen, talk to Peter.
Okay,
And remember,
okay,
there's an
but-
addendum in addition to the
So I
plan.
think there are, if we have 3,000 cars a day and they're going 30 miles an hour, it's still not a very pleasant environment for bicycles. So I think both things are important.
Sure.
And I also, what I want to say about the diverter, because I think what happened on, I think there's a couple things we could do to make it work. One is there has to be a tremendous amount of notice ahead of time so that cars don't get stuck doing this.
That's gotta be part of the design, so
Part of the
it's
design
not,
has
it's
to
not
be the
only a
deferred-
design of putting
Right.
a barricade, but you gotta have a good signing program to.
Right, and
make sure
maybe at the
people-
beginning, you know, I'll tell you what, San Francisco has done something like this on Market Street. They divert cars who are heading, I don't know what, eastbound on Market, at a couple different places, and when they first implemented it, they had people standing at the intersection going. In fact, I turned as a bike because I was confused, I didn't know what was going on. And now that it's, you know, that was when it was temporary, and they also had those big electronic signs saying turn ahead, and like really telling, because cars were confused, and I still see cars going through when they're not supposed to, but it's very well marked on the street, like you turn here, you know, you cannot go straight if you're a car unless you're a taxi or a bus. So that's something to think about, is how could we make it really clear for people who don't know what they're doing, and how could we at the beginning give some extra help? And could the city, if, you know, I think there will be some extra traffic at the beginning, and it will be unpleasant at the beginning, but as people learn, it will get better. And how is the city willing to stand up to the neighbors who are gonna be angry instead of just pulling it off? I mean, can the city say, look, this is a 6-month trial, and if you hate, we hear that you hate it, let's talk about it in 6 months. And I,
Get
because
it
I
work in
think,
the triangle.
well, that's the thing, I think if the city isn't willing to stick with it, then, you know, you've gotta be willing to weather some bad weather for a little while, if it comes up, when you try new things, you know? Because not everyone's gonna be happy, chances are, but if given time, maybe they could get used to it. And I also wanna say, I think the diverter is fine, I don't know how far the money will go, but I would love to see some necking down, narrowing farther north, because people could still speed between 62nd and 45th. There's plenty of wide space. So would that be was that what you?
He was hoping that we were gonna get the diverter money from Sherwin-Williams.
Well,
Well,
no, but that would
long-term,
be for
that'd
the
be long-term.
permit.
What is that, 2-3 years?
Well, it's kinda unclear right now. They don't have a development.
And so the money that we have to play with
So we're putting in like.
No, but we would be doing a trial to see if we want Sherwin-Williams to do a diverter.
Yeah,
would
right
be
now we
doing
wanna see if it's
temporary
gonna be
diverter.
effective, right?
We'd be designing it, but I would say, like, let's not, I guess what I would like to see is us do a combination of things and not just do the level 5, but also try some of this other stuff. I mean, we haven't tried a lot of, like, almost anything in here. The street is too wide right now.
That's true.
There could be, one of the things, I went through watched a planning process in Oakland, they were talking about, you know, a different pavement treatment, painting the pavement. You know, there are all sorts of things you can do to signal to cars that this is a slow zone.
Well,
And
you
in
put
San
up a sign that
Francisco,
says,
well, yeah, you
18
could do
miles an hour,
signage,
20
yeah,
miles an hour.
and is there money in the study for that, or would that money come from somewhere else? Because I know when there's.
The money in this, the money for the consultant is for preparing
Design.
plans, so.
Okay, so
that's
we'd have
what
to
we
find money from somewhere else if we want 18 miles an hour, because they have to do some kind of speed stuff.
you're not.
Okay, first of all, I want to ask Marcy, are you as familiar with the plan, like the pedestrian bicycle plan as Peter?
Probably not.
Do you know about the 3,000?
Well, I was just gonna ask if I could clarify.
Well, remember, it's not ensconced just there, there's also an addendum,
Okay.
that's the
Oh, yeah,
So-
the big fat, yeah, the appendix.
Marcy is looking at the appendix and I am looking at the plan.
So I just, thank you for asking the questions. I don't have to raise my hand to speak. Traffic volumes on bicycle boulevards east of Hollis should be below 1,500
That's right,
vehicles
yes.
per day. West of Hollis Street, traffic volume should be below 3,000.
That's right, yeah.
So maybe that's where the confusion.
But I think there's something about treatments, if it gets above 3,000, here's what you do, and you slow
Yeah.
the speed, I thought.
You know, the other point I wanted to make was the worries that are being expressed, and they're legitimate worries about the freak out at Triangle, when the Triangle traffic calming. It's one thing that, there's a huge difference between what Horton Street Bike Boulevard and the Triangle area, and that is the fact that it's a bike boulevard. And the thing that makes it that's salient is the 3,000. So the 3,000 is sort of our, in other words, that's a huge difference. So we can hear freak out, but we can say, okay, well, we're open to any idea that gets us to the 3,000. So it's, in other words, it's not just nebulous like the triangle was, which is we think this would be good without, this is what essentially what happened with the triangle. The city said, we think this would be good, doing this, and without, there was no qualification. We think it would help, and we like the idea, hold on, and then the people all said yes, and then they did it, and then other people who weren't paying attention, but there was no.
The city council was only reacting to the neighborhood group that was pushing to.
That's right, but there was nothing, there was no goal, it was nebulous, it was just traffic calming with sort of nebulous, but we're not, this isn't nebulous, this is a goal of 3,000, so it's much more clear cut, and I think that's gonna help us, it's gonna be more, offer more clarity, make it, it gives us a refuge for freak out, well, we're just trying to get the 3,000, which is what the $200,000 study that's unanimously approved tells us we need to do.
I'm talking about the bike plan.
Yeah, I'm talking.
That's a citywide thing, that's
right, but I'm talking about the freak out from neighbors, oh no, there's a diverter. I'm just saying it's unlike I'm just offering my conjecture about how, unlike the triangle traffic calming where it was sort of nebulous, where the goal was to just calm traffic. We don't have just a nebulous goal of calming traffic. We have a concrete, specific goal, and that is 3,000 and 25 miles an hour.
Not 25, it says 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, really.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's right, okay, I'm sorry, you're right, it does say that, it does say lowered.
My
I'm sorry.
intuition is, until we have a development at Sherwin-Williams, the blowback would be too much for the diverter. That's an intuition. And I think that we don't want that to happen prematurely. We want that diverter to be a part of the Sherwin-Williams future plan, I think. And I think there's a lot we can do, like Laura was suggesting, on Horton Street. There's places where we can make it friendlier for bicycles, having bicycles maybe have a through area where cars stop. A number of items that designers can look at and suggest and design for that will make it a better street how it is now, and I think that we can install these in such a way, even, the pinch point is, effectively done every time a road washes out in the East Bay Hills, like on Pinehurst Street. There's a stop sign on one and one on the other, and I'm unaware of traffic accidents here. And this is common in mountains and hilly areas where 2 lanes go down to 1, and this is a common country driving experience. So, it could be designed in such a way that you could feel like that, and we can disguise its purpose by making it look like there's some kind of construction happening. That it's temporary.
The permanent construction.
There you
site.
go.
That's right.
Great idea. Right lane closed ahead. Watch for oncoming cars.
That's right. And we should do that. And then people, there's something going on here. And we can avoid blowback by this also. And then people will start to get used to it. And then we have signage that says what it really is. I think that's
Brought to you by.
Having like a two-way stop on Horton though, I mean, it's mostly people going north, right? And it's mostly in the afternoon.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so there's not that much traffic coming south at that point anyhow, so they'll just start to figure out how to blow that stop sign.
Well, it'll be hard to blow it if there's somebody the other way,
I think the one
So
diverter
I'm
that,
saying there won't be anybody coming the other way, except maybe a FedEx truck.
No question.
the one diverter which I think you probably would have the least controversy is if you did something at Horton and Stanford, because you don't have the residents there.
Right.
So if you're going northbound on Horton, you have to go back to Hollis. If you're going southbound on Horton, you gotta go back up to Hollis.
So
Then you
just
wouldn't get that
divert
country
all
traffic.
traffic to
I
the
think
east
you're probably right
there.
there, so that would probably be the
As
least.
long as there was a
So
way,
my grand plan for a big
Or-
traffic circle there.
I
is
think
going
you would
around.
need to make sure that would have to be designed so that there's a parking garage there, that they can get into the
Well,
parking
it's
garage.
complicated to design. I've been trying to think about ways you could do it.
They
Well,
have,
if
It's
they could-
complicated to
they have
design.
a design.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's not, you can't do it on a temporary basis. If you want to do it on a temporary basis, it's hard to design.
Yeah, it's harder, because I think what would work there is to allow the entrance to that parking garage from Stanford, but not from Horton. And I think that is how most, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that's how most traffic gets to that parking garage.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What I was thinking is if you can come southbound Horton, once you get to Haruf, you can go through. I mean, you could go for local traffic, but you'd have to make a left on Haruf to go around.
Which one is Harrod?
That's the little one right from the Brook and Rack now.
Or
Okay.
it's either that, or you put a barricade just past the parking garage entrance on Stanford, and that traffic would have to go back up to Stanford in that way. And then
But
going
it just passes the
south,
parking
going northbound, you could put a barricade, so you have to take a right turn onto Stanford.
Yeah, you know, I think the only trouble with that is that I would love to see us cut off cars closer to 40th Street, because I do think that's where some of the extraneous traffic goes. I mean, the advantage would be it would cut off those FedEx trucks. They would be gone much quicker.
But you might still have people choosing to use Horton until they go to Stanford.
Right,
Oh,
right,
yeah.
and then
Sure.
that's the way
Yeah.
places.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and
then
then,
going over to
You need
Hollis.
to
That
find
that
that
might not
left
be as
turn
much
line
Yeah,
onto,
exactly.
Right.
onto
So-
Palm Street.
one thing I want to just put out there, just looking through the best practices, and I will just say one of the things that it says in here is volume over 3,000 is not recommended, and if it is over 3,000, if it has to be for short periods of the,
Short little
sections.
sections.
Short little sections, that the recommended treatment would be additional separation with a bike lane, raised bike lane, cycle track, or other treatment. And that would be one, I don't know what the street width is here, but that would be one way to narrow the street, is to put a bike lane on
You
both
start-
sides, or to put a cycle track on
Buffer.
one side.
You start separating the cycles, and where's your bike boulevard?
Well, then you don't, I mean, there are parts of it that are separated. The parts farther north, there is a
But
bike
the
lane.
part where I find that people speed the most is the section south of 53rd to 45th. Because it's super wide, no
It's just
parking,
as-
no
yeah.
center line.
Those overlays
Yeah.
really fast too, people go fast on that.
I haven't experienced it on Overland.
It's just such a short street.
Well, I was gonna say regarding what I asked, what's the name of the company? Brett Hondorf and
Oh.
YG? No.
Alta.
Alta, yeah. And the reason why that sentence is in there is because of the transit center. Because they know there's gonna be over 3,000 just from the transit center, and they have to go at least one block on Horton. That's why that sentence is. In other words, we can't stop them going one block to the parking garage for the
Right.
transit center, because that building alone is gonna make more than 3,000 trips. That's why that sentence is.
Okay.
So-
And that's why they have raised bike lanes
Yeah, that's right,
recommended
that's
throughout
right.
there.
Okay, well, I just want to say, I'm detecting like maybe like we have to do like a compromise here for the temporary work. Maybe Maurice had I kind of like Maurice's idea where that would be the least controversial to do now, because it's the least impactful of residents that are up at Stanford. Maybe we could to tell this firm that we're spending 30 some odd thousand on to design a diverter for that, temporary. And then do Scott's idea for the southern diverter at where everybody wants it at 45th and Sherwin. And then have that be done by the Sherwin-Williams developer later, maybe, or something. I'm looking for a
I'm
compromise.
still not sure what Scott is. I mean, I heard the
He says
temporary construction signs, but I
He
don't.
says that make the developer pay for it and just basically.
Just put it in, I don't know that you'd want to put it in as a permanent measure without trying, you gotta
Right.
really try it.
Right,
I agree with that.
for sure.
Or come at least get him to pay for then get the developer to pay for the temporary and
Well,
pay
the
for the.
temporary, I mean, the temporary, I think we're covered with the CIP. I mean, if we get the design, it's just a matter of putting up.
No,
a
but I'm
couple-
talking about two, like having yours up north and then having
Yeah.
Scott's, the
Yeah, I'm
developer pay for the southern temporary and the southern permanent, and then we pay for the northern temporary.
Well,
and
the developers, if you want to do it now.
Yeah, we don't wanna wait.
No, but have him put money in an estimate, an account for.
He's not doing anything right now.
Well, I know,
He's
but
not.
what I'm saying, when he comes, then we get him to do the temporary at the southern part, and then get him also to do the permanent at the southern.
You know, the
That would
temporary is
the
gonna be a
developer.
matter of putting up one of those big yellow barrels we already have in the
Yeah,
yard,
that's right, yeah,
and then doing a bunch of signs,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
So
Get
we
the
don't wanna
developer.
wait for a developer's timeline, I think, for that.
Okay, so
Good, so we're
we've
talking
kind
two
of blown our
develop- two-
40 minutes here discussing things.
Alright.
Do we
I just-
have a motion?
No.
Okay?
I don't have a motion, but I would like to open this process to include residents who live near Horton. So I'm thinking of the terraces and 1500 Park and Artist Co-op and other residents around there. I'd like to have some kind of a public process where people know that there's a chance to weigh in on it. I don't think we'll have unanimous agreement, but I think it's really important to have that buy-in, and if we don't do that.
I was thinking that would have, that could come, once we decide what we want to do, then we would have to move forward to the Transportation Committee, and then maybe we could have a public hearing in front of the City Council where we invite. But if you're going to talk about different areas at one time, then it's going to get really
Yeah.
complicated to notice and.
It'd be good to have a few choices, you know, to
Right,
choose.
yeah.
Can I say, I want to second what Jennifer said, because I think that's the difference between a successful and not a successful program. And I heard some people talking about doing bike boulevards in Chicago at an event I was at, and they said that buy-in from the businesses was really important. And they had, they were a big city, they had a lot of staff, but they went business to business and said, we're going to take away parking here. How can we make this work for you? Where can we give you, like they worked out, they figured out what the problems were that were created by this, and they worked with people to mitigate those. And so maybe that, I don't know if we have money in the budget, or maybe that, that means having meetings at the terraces and at these, in the common rooms of these places to invite the residents to say, this is gonna happen near you, we want to know what you want, what's your goal for the street?
At the traffic calming for the Triangle neighborhood, they had quite a few different.
And
it's
we had
neighborhood gatherings.
workshops at the
I saw them
senior
listed
center.
all the time, they were
We
all
had
different
so many.
places, all different groups
Oh,
of
and
people,
that's
everybody in the neighborhood was invited to all of them, and I don't even remember how many there were. And they all came up with a plan, but then as soon as it was implemented, then they started to realize
Then the
the,
people who were paying attention.
well, no, I don't even think it's the people who were paying attention. It's a lot of times, you can design something and think it's gonna do one thing, but you don't really realize the full ramifications of what's gonna happen until it's actually in place. And that was my impression of what happened. Once it was actually there, even the people who I think had worked to, design it and had come up with a plan, once it started to happen, and they started to see, oh, well, when this car comes here, it goes here, and then there's extra traffic here, and that's when it started to fall apart. And that's when then a lot of people started showing up at City Hall and complaining about it.
The seriousness of the triangle, we shouldn't underestimate. There was, I think, at least one child death with a kid running between cars on 47th.
Before the calming.
Yeah, before the calming. So, I mean, they were motivated to protect their children, and that is serious.
And there was a lot of really fast, traffic going because
Yeah.
people were using
Cutting
it,
through.
cut
Yeah,
through
that's
all
right.
the time. But as they say, and they, from my understanding was that everybody agreed on, the elements that were implemented. But as they say,
Yeah.
once it actually happened, that it didn't work out quite the way they thought it was going to.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
we're
think
starting to get
anytime.
off topic here.
Okay, this is the,
We're out of
what we're
time.
talking about is the commons, and anytime, the commons belong to everybody, and it's, everybody has a feeling of, connection to it or ownership of it, which is good, but it also brings that kind of reaction. So I think we can expect a wave of negativity and a wave of support, and businesses were gonna hate this, of course, right? It's not in their interest to have traffic calming on Horton. We know that going in.
They don't have to
That's
say
fine
it.
if they don't like it, but they can put their 2 cents in.
No, I
The
think
fact that they don't like
Sherwin-Williams
it.
wouldn't mind it at all. They're
Well,
gonna
yeah, maybe
want
some, yeah, but the
a
fact
more
that, just,
walkable-
we shouldn't run away from this by the fact that some people are hating it. Because there's a greater goal here, and that's, this is the only north-south bike boulevard in town, but I want to make a motion. I like what Maurice said about the process just now. Can you repeat can you tell us how you envision?
So the recommendation goes to the Transportation Committee,
Yes.
and then ultimately goes to City Council, and when it goes to council, we'd have to do a hearing.
A hearing, so at least one
You'd
public
have to,
hearing.
you'd have to notice everybody
Yeah.
within so many feet, and,
That's the legal minimum.
yeah, I mean, that's what you do.
Okay, so I'll make my motion. I say so I guess what we're looking for is to spend the 36, is that what we're looking for?
The grant funds will come through ACTC, so
What are you looking for from us, in terms of?
we need to be able to direct, I need to develop a scope of work for this consultant. and then.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I need to define what the project
Okay.
is.
I'll make a motion now to that we tell the consultant, I don't even know, what is the name of the company?
I don't know yet.
You don't know. Okay, tell the consultant to investigate temporary level 5 traffic calming at Stanford and
At 45th?
45th, and between 45th and Sherwin.
So in other words, diverters at 45th on Morton, and then diverters at
At
Stanford.
Stanford, yeah, that's what the plan calls for also.
What about 62nd Street in that area? Are we worried about that step right now?
Do we have enough?
I always thought the transit center would be better if they put in their own diverter, right, where you cross between their parking garage and their office building, but they didn't seem to go for that either.
So you get a lot of traffic coming southbound on, well,
Okay, well,
FedEx
look,
in particular, they're taking Overland, 62nd.
Okay, let me add to my amendment. So let's add that into it, because the consultant is studying, this is the study of the study, so it's,
I don't want
right?
to study anything, we're gonna design, we're gonna come up with.
Design it, yeah, design it, and then we can still say no to that, yes to that, so I'll include what you,
so,
at 62nd also.
Let me just say that the issue behind putting a diverter at 62nd Street, there's a couple. First one is, let's say you're preventing vehicles from coming southbound on
60, remind everybody where 62nd is.
62nd.
Post office.
We can back
Post
to
office, that's the
the
T.
thing, if you wanna go there.
T's there, yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Then you'll have a bunch of cut through in the park, in the post office
Exactly.
parking lot.
Everybody's gonna go through the post office parking lot to make that.
Oh, yeah. Unless you
Yeah.
divert south of the post office parking lot.
Right. So we were kind of brainstorming amongst staff as to another way to address that. And so a way you could address that is instead of, could you bring up the aerial? Maybe, and then you zoom into Wharton and, oh, excuse me, 62nd and down.
You're already there.
Here's
Yeah.
62nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the mound side, right to the west side is the mound side.
Okay, Pan, bring this down here.
Other way.
The other way.
There you go.
Where's the mound, there's the mound side, the car's parked on it.
Okay, so what happens is, they come out of this warehouse here,
Yes, that's
and they
FedEx.
come out of here, and they
Yeah.
just blast
Yeah.
down here.
Yeah,
So what we wanna be able to do is get them to go up here,
yeah.
right? Or go, ideally, actually go straight out to Hollis,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way, right?
yeah.
So another way to do that would be to make Overland Avenue so you can only drive northbound, but allow bikes to go southbound.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I was wondering, how do you
63rd.
limit that, because it's already kind of a limited street to begin
It's
with.
pretty narrow.
Or even a diverter for cars. Cars can even go
Well,
through.
yeah, the thing about it is, now the issue behind that is that if you did that,
Promotes
the
the
people at
cut-through
the,
people
then
still.
the people at the courtyards and the other, if you could pan down even
Yeah.
further.
I am.
Yeah, so then you've got,
Courtyards are up the top.
At 65th, you said that?
Yeah.
So you're talking about allowing one-way traffic for cars and two-way traffic for bikes north of
Yes,
63rd?
exactly.
I think that's a good idea
I mean,
because
you could do that, but, you could do that, but the issue is that you've got a huge development here that would not be able to get off and get into the garage right away. You force everybody to go all the way around the block, and then you've got this big parking garage for this development too, so there's a, it'd be a whole lot easier to put the,
Well, but what about putting a diverter there and letting them go north and south, but not letting northbound traffic go past 63rd?
say that again?
If you put a diverter at 63rd and Overland, then northbound traffic would have to turn right on 63rd? Oh, but that wouldn't help us. Northbound would have to be diverted south of 63rd.
It's the FedEx, if we're trying to address FedEx, I mean, let's say that's the big goal, right?
Yeah, then
They're all
I'm
coming
diverter
out
won't
here
work.
and making that turn. How do you get them to stop doing that?
Right, so that won't work.
I've heard that one-way streets, cars go faster on one-way streets.
That's right, they do.
That's right.
They do.
Okay, I have,
Fluid
Yeah, but
mechanics.
one thing about Overland is that cars drive right down the middle of the road anyway.
Well, they
Yeah,
have
do,
to
yeah.
because,
It's so narrow. It's so
well,
narrow.
yeah, you know what happened to Overland is when that was being constructed, it was a two-way street with a line down the middle and then no parking. And then
Yeah.
somehow parking got added, the line got taken out, but
Yeah.
the street is too narrow for two-way traffic really, with parking.
And why do you
next to
need
the
that
courtyard.
parking? Just the employees at
Everybody,
Starbucks or
parking's
something?
always rare in the city.
Okay, can I
So
have
I've
a
got a
substitute
motion,
motion?
but it hasn't, my motion hasn't been
It
clarified.
hasn't been articulated yet.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm talking about two, and then Maurice is bringing up a possibility of a third, which that's what we're talking about. Can you,
I have a substitute motion.
no, that's
He
not,
doesn't have a
His
second
has
yet.
to be seconded.
that hasn't said, it's just a motion now.
Go ahead, try
So
that.
your motion is temporary
Just have-
level 5 at Stanford and Horton and 45th and Horton?
45th, Stanford, and then I'm listening to what Maurice is saying about a possibility of a farther north one. But I'm,
Okay, so
Scott's
to
interrupting. that's
modify
fine.
your motion.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, how much design can we get for 36,000? Can we just have them design everything we're interested in? And
That's a good
then
question.
do public relations, and then we have real designs?
Yeah.
That's a good question. In other words,
In
Maurice just
other
said,
words, have it designed, sit on a shelf, figure out when we're gonna do it later, right?
It's a
Don't
good
you
Yeah,
idea.
think?
yes, you just have a lot of design started. And the design would include ball lights, it would include
No.
the choker, it would include everything we've talked about.
why do you
And
say
then
sit on the
we-
shelf?
And
Maurice?
I just don't know how far
How
the
much money is
$32,000 is
gonna
gonna go, and I don't know that we wanna use the money we're gonna use to implement it to spend it on design. I
We
think
don't
we
want that
wanna.
many choices taken to the public to look at.
Okay, let me go back to my motion.
I don't think- to be honest-
Designs.
I don't know that putting in chokers requires a lot of public outreach. You just, it seems like the city, right? But diverters do, right? Because that's gonna affect where people go. Chokers or putting a bike lane, I don't know. I mean, it'll be up to the city council, but it doesn't seem that that's as critical as,
Yeah.
What's up,
if you put in a
Jennifer?
speed bump, I think you might wanna.
Well, does everyone feel like chokers would be, that people would be like, oh, hey, there's a choker, like, no problem?
I think choker would get a lot less.
Choker, I think you would. Well, choker with the one way in each direction, I
Yeah.
think you'd want.
Well, no, not the total neck down with the one way, but chokers that would just
Chicane.
narrow, chicanes. Well, and also
Chicane means this.
you can do neck downs that don't create one-way traffic, but just
That's
really
called
narrow
bulb.
it. Or
It's a bulb.
Yeah, you can do bulb
We've done
outs.
that.
And-
There's already
I
a
just
partial
think that's
dump
what
out
it
right there at that creek, and then, it would make sense there.
Yeah.
All
That's
that
the place
happens
where
to
they
that
go the
bulb out
fastest.
Let me go back to
I
my,
feel more nervous as a cyclist when the
Right.
bulb out
Yeah.
happens. Because
Right.
there's no
Yeah.
slowing down by
Right.
cars.
Yeah.
There's no reduction in.
Can I go back to
volume.
let me go back to my, I'm gonna go back to my, motion. I'm gonna take away Maurice's northern one, since he didn't do a good job, frankly, sorry, of articulating. So I'm just gonna say.
I'm not trying to sell it. I'm
No, I know, that's fine. But let me just go back, and I'll just say my motion, and then is that hire this company to design 2 temporary diverters at 45th and the northern one at Stanford, because I like that one. But that's my motion.
Why don't you
Hire the
design a
30,000
permanent
$1,000.
version, and then you can put a temporary version in?
Because we can't do a permanent.
What I wanna do
We're
is
not allowed
do
to
a trial.
Yeah, we're not
We
allowed
don't
to
have the
do
money for the permanent.
Well,
yet.
the plan doesn't even allow us to do a permanent, even if we wanted to. We have to study, we have to
We're gonna do trial.
see if it works, see if it brings it down to 3,000, which
I mean, it's easy to put a baller down,
Yeah.
but we gotta figure out all the signs, all
Yeah.
the,
So that's my motion.
all the striping changes.
So 2, we spend the 30 some odd thousand on the consultant to design temporary
Trial traffic
diverters.
calming.
Yeah, what do you call it?
Trial diverter.
Trial diverter at 2 locations.
Stanford and 45th.
Yeah, and that's what by the way, that's what the bike ped plan calls for. by
Okay,
the way.
so that can be done in a sentence.
So
my
somebody gonna
motion.
second that motion?
I'll second.
Okay.
So I'd like to speak to that motion, which is, I'm opposed to it because here's what my fear is, that we put all our eggs in that basket, somebody has a cow and we've got nothing. I want to see
So you got no
us,
diverter.
we've got, well, not just no diverter, but no traffic calming. I don't want to see us, I'm not opposed to a diverter, but I don't want us to see us put all our design and tryout money into that basket. I want us to be more diversified and try traffic calming that includes narrowing the road. I ride my bike a lot of places. I ride hundreds of miles every month, not just bike to work month. I do this every month of the year, and I ride in a lot of different surfaces and a lot of different places, and there are ways to make streets really
Well,
bike-friendly
how-
and pleasant.
How
there's
does
done
everybody
that.
feel about just putting a center line on the street?
I think we could do a lot. I
Well,
wanna, you know what
can I
I
just add
wanna,
this?
no, Brian, let me speak for a minute, please. I wanna just bring up an example of something that Emeryville did on, I think is it Emery Street or Hollis Street? What is there was that block Hollis, I think. It was Hollis, where we did that whole redesign of that block by adding, different striping for bikes, and, yeah, it is
There's a bike
Hollis.
lane in between the right turn lane
Right.
and the straight lane.
It took, the committee talked about it and
Or
staff worked on it.
the, near Home Depot.
Near Home Depot, yeah, and there's like a big stripey thing where cars can't drive in the street, there's like a bus stop, and it was all done I was really impressed with how quickly and beautifully the city did that. And it's a really nice environment in a very horrible heavy, driveway heavy kind of place. It really made a difference, and it's mostly paint. So I wanna say, I think, let's study diverters, fine, but I don't wanna only do that, and then if it doesn't work, well, then we've blown it.
Do you have a substitute motion then?
Okay, I'm gonna make a substitute motion that we spend the 36,000 designing and studying diverter. Designing. This is just for design? Oh, because the temporary stuff isn't gonna cost us much of anything, right? Okay.
If you wanted to come up with a striping plan that we would implement,
But see, I guess I go back to what Jennifer said, is like, can we say what our goal is and have the design team say, well, here's our suggestion for that? Or do
essentially, we have 36,000 of budget for design efforts, so if you want to design a striping plan for Horton Street, we could probably say that would be the scope, I would imagine. I'd have to talk to,
Well, could we say our
Do we
goal
think that would
is,
reach the goal of
well,
reducing traffic?
that's the thing, I don't think striping alone is gonna reduce the traffic. I think you're gonna have to do something a little more severe to reduce those cut-through cars.
right, that's where the diverters come in.
That's where the diverters, but I guess my question is there something between striping, and I think striping would be great if they came up with it,
So-
that could be part of it.
So what if we had the trial measures be diverters at Stanford, diverters at 45th, and striping in between?
I guess
And
I
we can
just
see
don't
whether
like-
or not we can get that for the amount of money we have.
I'm okay with not having a pinch point, because I do think there are some issues with that, but I'm having a hard time letting go of the idea of doing some of the other things that they talked about, which are sort of narrowing the roadway, and, maybe striping is enough for that, I don't know. But I would love to see planners, how can we get cars to go slower? Can we make a neck down so tight that they have to go 10 miles an hour to get through it? Two-way traffic, but you've got planners right there. Because the bulb out right now, what it does is it squeezes the bikes and cars into the same space, but the cars still have plenty of room to go really fast. Could we do something even tighter where you've got a bike lane going through the diverter, not diverter, but the landscaping, whatever, temporary bollards, and then cars on this side? You know what I mean?
I'd like to
So
think
cars
that a
get
lot of the
straight
people
line.
that are speeding are those people that are just cutting through the neighborhood, not the local.
It's some of both.
I go
can
20
say.
miles an hour.
I go as
Can I-
fast
can I
as
just-
I
On
can on the
purpose.
street.
Can I just say something by way of what
I could be wrong,
talking about? Okay, first of all, we have done what you're talking about, what you're talking about is level 3. It's before level 4. That's what you're talking about.
Well, it's
Bulb
all the
outs and
numbers.
like
Yeah.
other
It's
kinds of
level-
traffic coming
yeah,
other than
yeah,
chicanes
that's level 3.
or chokers or diverters, called level 3. And we
Well,
have
that's-
done, let me just say, we have done that on Horton Street Bike Boulevard in several locations, like for instance on Park, we've done it, on 40th, we've done it. And those,
59.
yeah, that's right. And those are the areas where the highest traffic and the most volume and the biggest speeding problem is in that area. Although not necessarily speeding.
Where-
Well, there's speeding everywhere, but that's where the highest volume is where the bulb outs are. The bulb out, the level 3 that we have tried hasn't worked. We're
I'm not
way over our target of 3,000. We're way
I'm not
over.
talking about bulb outs, I'm talking about speed humps, chicanes, traffic,
Chicanes is 4.
chokers,
4.
neck downs.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm talking
right.
about level 4, I'm talking about chokers and neck downs. I agree that the pinch point makes me nervous. I'm afraid that there are gonna be
Are you talking about
idiots
choker?
who don't know what they're doing and get in an accident. But chokers, neck downs,
Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
is it the same thing?
They're listed separately, I'm gonna look. see
And
if there's-
I don't know, I may be getting my definition wrong, but I wonder if there's something we could do
Can you clarify
where,
your motion?
I haven't even made my motion yet. I just wanna
Yeah,
move
we're way
that
over
we
time.
include in the scope of what we ask them to do, traffic calming short of
In addition to the diverter design, or?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
do that.
I'm with Scott, and I would say let's leave the 45th Street diverter for the design for later. Let's get that out of the Sherwin-Williams project, and
How long is that?
I started.
When
No.
It could be a few years.
it could be a few years.
It's a good Tom, can you, she's trying to come up with her for a substitute motion here.
But I thought Scott actually ended up saying to put a
To
a
design.
temporary diverter.
We're
there.
saying to do it temporarily now.
I'm not sure that that's.
Well,
The thing is, if we do
I
it
just-
temporarily now, then we take it away.
I'm imagining a process where we get a bunch of design, that's real design,
And then just,
and start to
We're ready.
go into the community and say, here are our designs, let's talk about it.
But the design should be diverters with a
Yeah, we
possible
should-
addition of a few other.
That's right,
I agree.
I want to get a bunch of designs for discussion so that we can talk with all the site users, you know, it's just
Yeah.
like.
Where
and
are
what-
the people who have experienced these before? I mean, these have been put in before, people have responded before.
Sure.
You know, planners have said, oh yeah, that one worked really well.
well, I will tell you though, that the person who designed the diverters in Berkeley had to leave the city. The city employee. Now, people love them now.
But at
That
the
they're-
time, it
that
We have
it
one in the
was
triangle.
not popular at the time.
We have one in the triangle that's
Yeah.
extremely popular right now.
Yeah, yeah, so there
Well,
are.
They're
there are
replacing
things-
the old concrete ones in Berkeley with traffic circles.
Yeah, a lot of them
Are they? Well, with the diverters with
are.
traffic.
Okay, but can we like finish
Okay.
up there? You can,
So-
like, do your
so-
motion.
Yeah.
I would just move that we study, here's my thing, I don't think we should put in the diverter at 45th now, have people say, have a cow about it, and then Sherwin-Williams, when the time comes, says, well, nobody wants it, so we don't have to pay for it.
So your
That's my
substitute
fear.
motion is
Is
for a
for-
temporary diverter at Stanford
It's-
and additional level 4?
Additional level 4
South of there?
with the goal of reducing traffic speeds, and I would also include
Which level
something.
4? Because it says chicanes and it says,
I don't
Yeah,
care.
I've got this idea for a chicane around that Temescal Creek bulb out, where you do another
Turn it
bulb
into
out
an actual,
about
I
60
think
feet
it's,
below and maybe above.
Can't you let them
Yeah.
do design something?
That's
I mean,
what
Well,
I
well,
feel
let's
like.
let her
it's-
finish the
That's a
motion.
good place for a chicane.
Let her finish the
So I
motion.
guess what my motion would be for, left turn control at 63rd Street. I like the idea of not letting anyone turn left south off of 63rd, and maybe that would solve the FedEx problem. Not diverting traffic on Overland? I don't know if that's
No
possible.
left turn from 63rd
To Overland.
to Overland.
Then maybe
or
the FedEx
64th from, because those just come out of their 64th Street driveway.
Yeah, well, so maybe no left turns onto Overland, only northbound turns.
Right turn
no
only.
south. Yeah, and with,
If they
you
fall
know,
back.
yeah, I don't know if that'll work.
That's an option.
I mean, that would be something that I would want to
I don't
look
know
at.
who's
Who's gonna
monitoring
police
it.
that?
I mean,
Yeah, that's
We're
the
gonna watch
trouble, that's the trouble. But I would want
So,
my goal would, in what I would love to see come out of this is traffic calming and traffic reduction. That is gonna stay, that the city's not gonna pull back on.
Just come up, have it be in the form of a motion so we
All
can
right,
vote on
all
it.
right. So I will just move that we ask them to study diverters at Stanford, some kind of diversion in the northern part, and design the diverter, but not put it on the ground at 45th, and also design some kind of other traffic calming measures short of diverters in between those 2 points that you were talking about.
I second that motion.
But I don't even quite understand.
I don't know if
Who wrote it down?
it's
What's
It's not
it-
there.
I
Okay.
recorded them.
Do you want me to say, let me just say it
Because I
again,
don't
let's see if I can say it clearer. I'm sorry, there's so much to this, and I don't know how much we can get for our
Well, that's the thing.
budget.
So, right, so let me just repeat what I heard. Diverter at Stanford.
Temporary diverter.
Oh, everything's trial.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
everything's trial.
Okay, diverter at Stanford.
Diverter at Stanford, diverter at 45th. And then.
No, she said no.
But
It
she
says
said
design,
Design.
design.
Well,
Design,
That's
if
what
you
this
can get
money's
it
for, it's for
designed.
designing.
It's
Right,
for
right,
design,
okay.
that's right.
Right.
Design of a diverter at 45th.
At those 2 spots, and
Okay.
traffic, well, sort of what you said, Maurice, traffic coming in between, could be striping, could be chicanes,
Right.
whatever.
So that's highest priority, is those 3 items. Then we would look at something at
there's money.
62nd.
Some kind of,
It
yeah,
could be as easy as no left turn.
right.
And we could do that now, I mean, right, we could put that on the agenda, right? Just buy a sign and put that up.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
that's,
Let's
is that
make
the
it-
substitute motion? So it's
Yeah.
diverter at Hort, just because I want to know, because I want to vote on this. diverter at Stanford, designed a diverter at Stanford and 45th Street. And then,
in between.
and then in
Traffic
between,
you could do.
some
try to see if
level
we can design
three,
it.
some level 3, possibly
Level
level 4.
four, no,
Right,
level
but
four.
And then
She's saying
something,
level
is
4 stuff.
that what you're saying? Is that
Well, both.
what
Let's
It's
say
in-
this
it's in both
idea of
level
a
three and four.
chicane.
We haven't done level 3, we're skipping to level 5 without even trying level 3 as well.
No, we did level 3 in some spots.
We haven't done traffic cones, and I know people hate those, but,
So what about the level 4 ideas around 45th? So that we have 2 options there, a diverter and some other treatments there,
like a
not just
traffic
elsewhere.
circle or.
Sure.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna get
Do you wanna
traffic
do it?
circle in
The only
there.
thing about, my
Sound
thought,
space.
Chokers.
if you
Those
don't
are
do
two
the,
choices.
if you don't do the diverter 45th now, when do you think you'd try it as a trial?
It's
method?
gonna be harder once people move in.
It's
and
gonna be
the
harder.
project's
Yeah, you'll
done.
never get it done.
So you think we should try it out now?
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
get people move
As
in.
long as
Well-
we're trying other things out now,
All
that's
right.
part of it.
Okay, then I will amend it to say designing and trying it out.
Okay, do you
And-
wanna
and what-
eliminate the northern end of things right now?
Yeah, I think I wanna do a separate motion, because I think that's a good idea, Maurice, I wanna make a motion.
We have a second on your motion, even though it was,
I'm still seconding it, Scott,
Do we
without
know-
63rd.
I want to have it clarified.
So do I.
So basically diverters at 45th and Stanford will try out and traffic calming in between.
Okay,
including
sounds good.
Yeah,
including
not
the level-
just-
And the
Second.
trial, the stuff in between could be, maybe a center line in the street, right? And then maybe a chicane, like,
Yeah,
I've been drawing out a chicane.
So that's the problem, is we're talking about terminology that I actually don't know how to experience. So I think what you're saying is there's something where the bikes can go through without any problem. Like
Oh, yeah.
Milby, the bike's supposed to go like this too, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it
So-
slows everybody down.
I know, but a bike going like this isn't the same
You
as a
can
bike
make-
going
you can
like
make
this
the
and a
bike
car
go-
going
yeah,
like
you
that.
can- you can
Yeah.
design- you can
I'm
design
I'm
that.
just saying,
I agree.
I don't know what that's called.
That'd be
And I
still
don't
be
know
the
if we're all
chicane.
talking about the
That'd be
same
I like a basic chicane where the bicyclists are also moving along with other traffic. I don't like the leave traffic and then re-merge, because I think that those are your,
That's a
those are,
little dangerous.
those are the most dangerous things there
We're
are.
gonna let the designers deal
yeah,
with this
that's what
issue.
I would agree. Let's
right,
let-
but if we said we want a temporary chicane at Temescal Creek, we'll design it.
Yeah, but not just one, I think the whole street has to be chicaned. If you have just
The
one.
entire street.
Well, that whole block, I think,
I
that
don't
whole
think it is.
section.
Yeah, the
I'm
kids
saying-
driving down that,
Yeah, the temporary chicanes means you're putting up some kind of bollards,
Yeah.
Right,
then you're making it hard to park. You're not gonna be able to.
well, because.
But there's no parking on that
There
side of the
isn't,
street
yeah.
anyhow.
Right, if there, yeah, and maybe we're not concerned about that, right?
Yeah.
Right, there's no parking on this side of the street anyhow.
All right,
According
let's
to
let the
That's part of
design,
this.
I'm gonna let the
Dictates.
Well,
design firm.
design will come back to us and we'll be able to give input, but that's basic. I just don't wanna leave
Okay,
that
we
stuff
are
on the table.
way late on
Yes.
this item.
Okay, so I think I understand
We
her
have to
motion.
leave, okay, so I
I
guess
think
we
I'm
vote on the
comfortable enough with
substitute
the
motion
wording.
first, do we
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor of this,
Could you restate the substitute motion, please?
Okay, just do it really fast.
Diverters,
diverters at
temporary diverters at
Stanford
Stanford and
and 45th?
45th and Sherwin, and some kind of temporary traffic calming in between.
Some sort of level 4, I believe.
Level
three
level
or
3
four.
or 4.
Level
Well,
3,
it's
okay.
it's
Leave
all
it
in level
vague.
4.
Leave it
so,
vague.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, so,
Okay,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, all against?
One.
That's right, you want them to be able to go 50 miles an hour.
No, I don't.
can I,
You said that right into the camera.
That's right.
can I follow up on this same topic, procedure, and how we're headed then with this? Because this would go to the Transportation Committee probably in
Who's on the camera?
June, and then
So it's a 50-50.
probably wouldn't go to City Council probably till September-ish for a hearing with all the neighbors and all
Is
that.
that okay with the funding, the timing?
I gotta check back with the funding. The funding doesn't really happen until, I gotta find out when that needs to be done. But we would, ideally, we would have some kind of direction from council in September, October-ish, so that we could start the design process.
I would just say that when it comes to Transportation Committee, since that's me and one other member, it's gonna have to be explained pretty well. Because this was a robust conversation that I got the benefit of, but it's gonna have to be really concise and clear what the recommendation is.
Can I make one more quick motion based on your suggestion, Maurice? Can I just move that we ask the Transportation Committee to approve right turn only signs at 63rd and Overland? And do you think 64th as well?
Yeah, and the timing is really good because at that meeting, Federal Express has asked for a red curb on 63rd Street. So the manager of Federal Express is going to be at that meeting.
Great.
So
Why does he want a red curb on 63rd?
it's hard to get in and out of the driveway.
turning.
Cars.
See,
So
you
the
said
manager of
63rd.
FedEx.
Don't drive so
No,
damn
63rd, right turn only onto Overland,
And
no left.
64.
Is this
And I
appropriate?
don't know,
Can we do
is
this?
64?
Pardon me?
Can we do this? I mean, is this part of the discussion?
It's-
It is, it's on the
It's-
agenda, right?
Oh, it's all part of the traffic.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So do we have,
Should it include 64th as well, Maurice? Is that
is this
part
a
of the
separate
problem?
motion we're adding?
It's a
Yes.
separate motion, because this doesn't have to be funded through the study. This is something that could happen.
You're saying if you go out on the 64th Street side and so.
Well,
that
I'm
would go-
asking you, should 64th be included as well?
They have driveways on to 64th, so if you
Okay, so
see no left turn from 63rd, they'll come out of their driveway on 64th.
Okay, so my motion will be right turn only from 63rd and 64th onto Overland.
You want to say FedEx at the top of the sign?
Not their employees.
FedEx trucks only.
I mean, are there other traffic, are there residents there?
Yeah, there's the,
62nd
there's
there?
Well,
the,
and the FedEx
the
was,
64th Street,
according
yeah.
to their original use permit, you know, made so that they're not supposed to come down 64th, 63rd,
Yeah.
62nd, 61st from San Pablo. It was part of the use permit, because all those trucks are under 3 tons and they don't come in under that truck thing.
But
And that was never enforced,
the FedEx
except by me.
FedEx was, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this, but FedEx wasn't, FedEx was there well before Horton and Landry and all that extension was put in. So they used to use Hollis.
yeah.
So.
Okay, so that's my motion. I don't know if
I had a question. Is it possible to distinguish between trucks and cars with the ability to make the turn or not?
I would have to ask the police chief on that. I don't.
So we haven't heard a second?
Okay, I second.
Okay,
I
let's
think
call
we
the
just-
vote, let's get moving, it's 7
Yeah.
o'clock.
Call the vote.
All in favor, say aye,
Aye.
or against? Looks like it's kind of unanimous.
Okay.
Wait a
Thank
minute.
you.
Did you-
7,
I voted
0.
yes on the
Yes,
second one,
okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Okay.
He joined us for that one.
All right.
Okay, so, yes.
I'd like to suggest that our next item be the Commonwealth Bike Curl application. The applicant has been waiting very patiently.
I will, hold on, I will withdraw right now, item 6A. I'm gonna withdraw that for a later meeting,
Okay.
where it's just to go.
Is that okay if we proceed with that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Is that an executive decision?
I talked to you.
So, I suppose so, nobody seems to object. So these are the plans for, I'm sorry, can you remind me of the address? So I guess we can share. For 3986 Adeline, this is the former Cafe Bière site in Commonwealth Cafe in Anna. The applicant is here for this.
We have enough to go around?
Yes, I'm working on it.
Oh, there's 2 there.
And so this is our first application for a bike corral in the city.
I'm sorry.
And the process as it goes here. This has been reviewed at DCC at our interdepartmental staff meeting. Staff provided comments. The applicant made changes in regards to those comments. And it is coming to you, and you will make a recommendation. If you recommend this, will go to Transportation Committee, and then it will go to City Council. So they're putting in a micro hub there.
Where, I'm sorry, where is, I
This
was,
is, so this is on Adeline, and it's just south of 40th Street,
just in
on the
Oakland?
east side.
It's in Emeryville where Cafe Beer used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Oh,
Cafe
yeah,
Bear
yeah.
used to be, right. So it's on the backside of Andante there. So, you'll see on the first page, it says, under separate use permit, they're putting in a sidewalk cafe there and making some minor changes inside. That's not what we're looking at today. We're looking at just the bike corral. And they're taking, the proposal is to take 1 parking space, which they show here, put in 4 bike racks, where we have a capacity of 8 bicycles. And if you look on the second page, it shows the spacing, which meets our bike parking requirements. It would be painted on the outline. And then if you turn the page again, it just shows how the bike rack would be affixed.
And is flexible vertical delineator, is that a, so that's a?
Yes, if you
that's
keep
a-
turning, as a matter of fact, the next page after that is the plastic parking block. It would be the white one, and it's gonna be required to have reflectors on there.
Where is that gonna be? On that
On
street
either,
side?
on either side of the
Oh.
parking space.
Can I ask you how many feet the parking space is?
Yeah, this should be the scale, so it's existing 8 feet,
It's an 8-foot space, okay.
approximately. And there might be a small variation in that, but 8 feet. And then if you look at the very last page, to answer your question, Ryan, that shows the flexible, reflector there.
So it's called, on page 2, it's called the flexible vertical delineator, and on page, last page, it's flexible channelizer tubular marker.
Yeah, that's
Same
because
thing.
that's the product, yes, that's
That's
the
the product.
product item, that's
Okay.
what it's called, that's our cut sheet for that.
I see.
Are there any of these in existence anywhere else right now?
Yes, there's many of these all over. Portland has over 100 of them. Oakland has a program. San
Oakland has
Francisco
about
has a program.
Or San Francisco has dozens, and they have a waiting list of like 50 or something.
So the difference in the process between all 3 of those cities and our city is that all 3 of those cities are much larger and have a program where the city actually installs the bike corrals, which we talked about at a previous meeting, how that process is different. So here, instead, we have an application process where you propose to have one, the city says, yes, that design is okay, and then they get to install it. So it's a different
So the
type of
applicant
process.
pays for the installation of it.
Yes, that is correct.
Can I ask a question? 'Cause
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for waiting so patiently, and I guess, I can't imagine why we would say no. And I wonder if there's a way to do this process to make it easier for the applicants. I mean, does it have to go to BPAC? Because when would we ever say, no, don't put more bike parking on the street? And I know it's different from Oakland, and I think there is a big process. I actually just interviewed Jason Patton about this issue. I just did a story on bike corrals as it happens.
Yeah.
And they do have a different program where they have money to install it, and the applicant has to promise to sweep the street. But other than that, it doesn't sound like it's that different. I'm sure the city has to decide if it's okay to take away the parking, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess my question is, how can we make this easy on the applicants so that it's, more people will be encouraged to do this?
Yeah, I think that might be a question if you have any feelings about this at this point. But this is what's codified right now, and it's because it's going to the transportation committee because it's taking away the parking. So you guys kind of have to look at it. I think it's also an opportunity, not so much, I don't think the idea was to put a barrier so much as to be like, seeing what's going on in the city, how can we make things better, what's worked other times, can we apply that to another situation? As this goes on, hopefully we'll have more applications and we'll have a body of knowledge to work with and we can make them better over time.
And if it didn't come to us, and the city said, oh fine, go ahead and put it in, and then there were proposals that we didn't like, we'd say, well, shouldn't this of all things have come to the bike committee?
Right.
So I mean,
Because you're asking for,
Rubber stamp it.
are you asking for a vote on this?
Well, I would like to, first, I didn't know if Anna had anything more to say or if you wanted to.
This is an action item technically, right?
Yes.
Not really, I mean, I got a lot of information from Jennifer Stanley, who's kind of a friend of ours, and so a lot of what's on this plan is, one, what's coming from the planning department, so we took the recommendation from the planning department, and then I did a lot of back and forth with Jennifer Stanley, and then got together with my architect, and that's what we came up with. So, I mean, what would make it easier on us would be, there's a great amount of cost involved in this. Timing's not really a big issue because just from experience, whenever you embark on a new project like a restaurant, you just kind of know you're gonna buy some time for a while. But I guess cost is the main thing. So how can you make it more affordable for business owners to do this? Because that's quite a bit of architect hours in those plans. For something that's, I don't know, maybe if that could just be straightforward where you can take the architect out of it and, you know, the planning department could just decide like, this is the plan we like, and then, you know, at that point, I'm still like at cost for the supplies and, the installation, but it kind of makes, you know, meets halfway. I mean, best case scenario, you do something like that Oakland does, and you just get one. You just sign up and they come and do it, but yeah.
Can we had done a grant for a bunch, and I think they've all, you know, been taken, but didn't we get a grant for a bunch of bike racks to go on, some of them on private property too, right? I mean, this is
you know
public.
more about that.
There were 100 and he got more applications, I think, than he needed, and they were approved.
They were all
and yeah.
taken.
Well,
I
that's
guess-
my recollection. They
So
were all
that
taken.
sounds like that's all happening, but I'm just wondering in the future, do we want to include something like this in a grant application like that, so that we could have some money to and some racks and installation money for putting more bike parking corrals in for businesses?
Come on, Amber, we
Just-
can talk to that about.
Yeah, just wanted to put that out. That might be one way to get some funding to
Yeah.
help businesses do this. Because I think, I just want to say thank you for being so determined to spend the money and the time to do it, but not, somebody else might just get partway through the process and go,
The one thing I can say about the bike rack grant is all of the racks have to be installed within a certain time frame.
oh, so that might not
after
fit into
receiving it.
this.
So you can't just sit on it until somebody says, oh, I want one
Right.
for my business. So I don't know if they're,
Yeah,
maybe
so that
they're
might not
a
work.
different pot of money or something, maybe eventually there will be. And it's not, you know, there's nothing wrong with asking and letting them know there's a demand.
When I had looked into bike racks for, Ruth Acton had asked me to look into some bike racks that, at Watergate, and the cost of the racks really is pretty minimal. It's compared to the architect's fee
Right.
and all of that that's involved in, you know, the installation and,
So
you
that
know,
would-
the path that they're going into.
And it would seem that once there's a few designs, you know, maybe we can just have some like
Yeah,
stock
somebody you can show
designs
to
and-
somebody and say, this is
Yeah, you
what
want this
somebody
one, this one, or
else-
this one, you know.
Yeah,
I think when we talked initially, I think I told you you'll be the guinea pig.
yeah.
I think those were my exact words for
Right.
this process, because she's the first person. So
Yeah.
it's both an excellent position in that you get to be like, I was the first, but then there's also some burden of going through that process and being the first person to do that. So this is definitely a learning process for staff, and I'm hoping to continue to get feedback from on as well as future applicants about how to make it smooth. And staff is also working on learning about what works best so that we can have, like, pick from these 2 or 3 designs and making the permit process easier. So it's part of us just developing and learning this. This is only very recently this has become an option in a codified way in the city. So, yay.
I think like as a
Yeah.
business owner, like at first when we talked about this process, I was kind of excited about designing it. But then as I got through it and I talked to Jennifer a little bit and I looked at some other bike corrals that are in Oakland, it just became apparent, like we just need this to function like as best as possible.
Yeah.
And I just was
Yeah.
like, I don't care what it looks like, 'cause, you know,
Yeah.
it's just gonna, you just want it to function.
Mostly what you're gonna see
Yeah.
are the bicycles anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not really gonna see anything else.
Right, so I think, yeah, if some good, just standard plans per parking space size kind of would be like, yeah, that's cool.
Tom, would you like to recognize Robert sitting behind you?
I know this.
Oh, okay. I just mentioned that, you know, I think it's great when there is such a specific interest from a business owner, but that the city doesn't have to wait for business owners to make requests in order to, you know, put on-street like corrals in at various public streets and sidewalks in the city. And you can be proactive about it. A lot of the ones that Oakland has been putting in weren't installed specifically because of individual business owner requests, but because they knew there was, you know, a lack of parking in a business district where there was a lot of interest.
That's not what Jason told me.
And, well,
He said it is all business directed.
Anything that's on private property, yeah. And
No,
and
the
park-
public ones on the street.
And parklets as well.
No, we're
But
not,
the
we
city
were
still
talking
doesn't
about
have the
on-street
funding
bike
to
routes.
do it, so it's still an
And
issue.
what I was going to say is that, you know, some locations benefit in more ways than just the added bike parking. So if you're trying to daylight a corner or a side, or a crosswalk, you know, and make it more visible, you can, you know, make it an easier sell to take out that parking spot if you're actually adding, you know, bike corrals at that same location. Or if you have an unused bus stop or a red curb that's just kind of sitting there, you know, you can make better use of that space by putting in a bike corral at that location.
And maybe once we get some designs that we think work, then we can go back to the rack grant
Yeah.
and have like maybe a list of bike rack locations that we want to install at and get the racks for. So
That's a great idea.
Yeah, and all that helps, like, time-wise. I mean, I also spend a lot of time, like, looking at delineators and looking at speed bumps, and, you know, it's just like, you get into the
Thank you for
maze
doing
of,
that.
like,
Yeah.
details, and you're
Yeah.
like, so, yeah, just, you know, this is the one you use, this is the one you use, that'd be awesome.
And I'll just respond to Laura's comment that there, I'm sure the city did get requests from business owners for bike parking in those areas, but probably not specifically bike corrals and specifically not in the areas that they were installed. In the Temescal, for instance, there was a crawl put in front of Burma Superstar.
Yeah.
And that business actually didn't want it there to begin with. The other businesses in the area thought it was great, but they had to convince the location.
Well, what Jason told me is that what they actually do is they try not to take away parking spots, and the Burma Superstar one is a T intersection.
Right.
That way you couldn't park a car, but they were able to put in a corral. So sometimes a business will request one in front of their business, but they'll actually cite it a little away because there's a better spot for it. So that's their process. But that does take staff time, and I don't know if Emeryville, you know, they were saying that was the biggest roadblock to them doing more bike corrals, was that they just had only so much staff time to.
And we have less.
Figuring it out.
And we have- Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, since this is an action item, we need a vote, right, Tom?
If you want to just have a hearty huzzah or something?
Yeah.
What would you like?
That's fine.
Are there any
Yay.
opposing?
I make a motion that we approve of this plan.
They're recommending it to the transportation.
I say.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that we strongly urge that they do this.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second. Do you want to call the question?
Sure. All in favor?
Who was the second, sorry?
It was me, Laura.
And you, okay,
I
thanks.
think that's what 7-0.
And what's the name of the restaurant?
Commonwealth.
Commonwealth.
Micro?
At Micro Brew? All right, well, we'll be there on our bikes. Thank you for doing
Do
this.
you have- Is it your own, is it your own
You're in a
micro?
50
micropub,
square feet.
not gonna have
Yeah.
any seats? You have
Is
to
your own?
stand and drink?
Are you gonna brew on premise?
No, not a brew pub, no brewing.
I see. Do you have your own beer?
No,
But it's about local beers?
yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I have a place in Oakland,
Nice.
Where at?
kinda like that.
Any IPAs?
29th and Telegraph, yeah.
IPA.
What's your estimated date to open?
2 months-ish.
Do torpedo on tap and I'll be there. Specifically torpedo on tap.
Oh.
Or you could also do West Coast
Okay, so,
IPA by Green Flash.
Our
I'll be
next
there.
item must be Love Our Neighborhood Day.
Okay, I'll make this quick. I don't need 10 minutes. I have a lot of postcards promoting Love Our Neighborhood Day. If anyone doesn't have some and would like some to put it wherever you live, or,
I'll do the co-op. Scott,
Yeah.
you do your co-op.
I've already got them.
You already did them?
Yes.
okay.
All
All right.
You need to do them at Horton Street.
I have a few more.
I've got tons. We
Yeah.
do run into a lot of these. And so I will just say that plans are coming together. We will find out, hopefully we're planning to have what Emeryville needs. Emeryville staff needs a particular document that we didn't have the funding until recently to get, and now we do. And, you know, cross our fingers, it should be here just in time for staff. And this is for you, Michael. We're, I think by Thursday, I don't know if Roselle forwarded my email. I know she wasn't, I think she wasn't here today. I emailed her. I'm sorry, I didn't email everyone else. I think we're gonna have that detailed traffic plan by Thursday at the latest. And the minute that I hear that we got it, I will forward it to all the staff, people who need it, to do the reports that they need to do.
Okay.
for that, and that's the Emeryville piece of it.
Did you hear from Ken James that the police department has been waiting to get a plan from?
You know, we're still trying to figure out the process in Emeryville because we're new at it. I think Emeryville's also, because this is bigger, is sort of, you know, and we just, I didn't know what people were talking about because I've never done this before. So I think there was a little miscommunication and confusion, and there were some budget issues because we have to pay someone to make that plan. So we now have the budget to pay someone to make it so that that person is on tap. They're doing the detailed plan, and it will be ready by Thursday at the latest. And I was told Thursday was kind of the drop dead for staff to get something, so.
And so you'll send it to Ken James and to
He
Jean
doesn't
Paul?
want-
He
wants
doesn't
Jeannie
want it.
Kwan,
Yeah, I'll
wants
send it to Jeannie Kwan and Joel Hannon, and should I send it to you, Mike? Are you the person?
I'm not the point person.
Marcy, I was told, is the point person, and then you'll
You
forward
want to
it
send it
to
to me, I'll send it to you.
Okay, okay, so I'll send it to Marcy and Brazell, and, you know, hopefully if I miss anyone, Brazell will add them, and also the fire marshal.
Fire, right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have his email address, I have his phone number, but, so.
Well, if you need it, let me know.
Okay, yeah, I think I do need it, so. Anyway, that's what's going on with Love Our Neighborhood Day, we're just working real hard to make it happen.
When's the next meeting?
Make it happen.
The next meeting is, the next big core meeting is June 12th at my place at 5514 Doyle, and everyone's welcome, and I think we're having an interim meeting this Thursday at 5, both the meetings are at 5:30, and we're having a meeting, we're meeting every week now because we're in crunch time, and it's gonna be at Rock the Bike. There's an office there that we'll be meeting, which is across.
What is that anyhow?
Oh, and that's a long story, I'll tell you afterwards. But it's across the street from the actual cafe on San Pablo.
And down about 200 feet.
Yeah. The other side of, what street is that, Ocean or 64th?
Between 64th and
no,
63rd.
60, okay, between 60.
Next door to the oil changing place.
Yeah.
Used to be printers, I think.
Yeah, it could be. Okay, so that's it, unless anyone
That's it?
has anything they want to tell me about it.
Then what are we on to, Bike to Work Day?
Yes,
Bike to
Bike
Work
to Work
Day.
Day report back.
There's a few of these, I mean, these are just the suggestions I've gotten so far. If, and we don't, you know, I don't know if anybody has any other ideas, thoughts, suggestions after our Emeryville experience. But I just wanted to give people the opportunity if they had something they wanted to say or suggest for next year. I know one of the things that has been discussed is whether or not the frontage in Powell Station is worth continuing, but as you can read in Kevin's comments, he thinks we should keep it. But
Especially as the trail gets more traffic, the day trail gets more traffic
Well,
coming
except-
through there with those improvements.
They only had 40 people.
It was
this
really
year.
quiet, yeah.
actually, it was more. It turned out the count I got was more like last year, which was 75, and it's like 72 or
Oh,
something.
yeah, okay.
So I don't know where that 40
So
Maybe that was how many
we may not
bags
need as
they
much
get.
staffing, we certainly don't need as many bags.
Yeah.
Definitely don't need as many bags, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I felt like the Greenway was only up by 17, which is about a 10% increase from last year, maybe 5%, I can't remember how many we had. We had almost 300 people, so I guess that's, what is that, a 5% increase?
And that's
But-
between water and water.
We were at Greenway and 65th.
Right.
So right at the corner of 65th and on the Doyle Street Greenway. But by the bocce courts is where we were. But I want to say that it felt like a very busy station, and we did okay because Cliff Bar was there, but we definitely could have given away more bags. And I think that more people are discovering that route and that station's getting busier, so it could use a little more love.
I would just like to thank everybody who volunteered, and took time and picked up bags and dropped off bags and staff stations and planned for it. I was just so impressed and grateful for the many, many hands on deck, so thank you.
I also want to say kudos to staff for doing a car-free Bike to Work Day second year in a row, and with all new staff, you know, I was like, we don't have to do, well, not, I mean, 2 new staff people who are sort of spearheading things. I was ready to give up on that if we needed to, but I want to say thank you for doing it. It's not easy, it's harder
to do it car-free with all that hauling, but we did
Well,
it.
from my point of view, it was doable because of all the people that had done it before and knew what they needed to do. I mean,
We did have good notes overall.
yeah. Yep. And we might do some other things a little differently next year if we can get people the day before to drop off bags and leave tables at all the stations, someplace right nearby, instead of waiting for 3 Pedal Express people to pedal everything to all the locations, because we know that volunteers were waiting, and probably some cyclists were disappointed that things weren't set up yet. So next year, we're not exactly sure how we're gonna do it, but for example, black and white liquor, maybe we can leave a box of bags and a table there. At the Bakery Lost, we know we can do that.
Well, at 65th, there's a community room there
That's right. Oh, is there?
at
I
the
was gonna
condo complex.
Because I was gonna say, I live a few blocks down Doyle Street, and I could trailer some stuff to my house the night before.
No.
Yeah, I'm around the corner, you could put it in
Well,
my basement if we had to.
Oh, okay, so we could put it pretty close by, that's nice.
So, and then also the Shell station will be new, and they'll hopefully help us out overnight.
Great.
So we might be able to at least do that for the small stuff, like maybe a lower table, well, whatever.
Well, because we have everybody peddling the stuff over the day before and dropping it off here and then moving it again, if we can keep it organized with people taking from East Bay Bike
Right
to
to
the spot
Well,
and
that's
hand
a-
truck it,
the
that would
table
be.
is the
But that's a week before, so it would have to be something.
Oh, I guess it is a week before, you're right.
Yeah.
We can figure, the
Yeah.
point is, we can figure it out, we'll
Yeah.
have a year to work on it.
Yeah.
It'll be
But I
great.
thought it went very well.
How were the overall counts?
Yeah.
I sent those out, sorry.
I think
It was
Emeryville was
up-
up a little. wasn't
We
Yeah,
were
it
up
was,
about
we were up,
10%, I
yeah.
believe,
It was about-
collectively, which was about, I mean, Robert can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe counts countywide were up about 20%, and then we were up about half of that, which I'd like to think is just because our infrastructure is so awesome that more people were biking here already.
Well, last year we were flat, and so, because I think, and I don't think the weather was bad last year, I think we just had kind of maxed out a little bit, which is,
Yeah.
You get more bike traffic all day long around here now.
right. Well,
It is
that's
huge.
one thing I want to tell you, I forgot to mention this, that, and I'm sorry, Jennifer, you had your hand up, but.
I just have a comment for my kids, I need to share.
Okay, well, I'll just say that I had told Cynthia from the Bike Coalition that, at 65th and Greenway, we could have counted another 100 or more bikes the next hour. People just, after 9, when we stopped, people just kept coming, and she said, oh, you can do that. You can stay open and you can keep counting if you want to.
Huh.
So that's something to think about if we have staffing that want to do it and we want to stay open an extra half an hour or something somewhere. Because I think there are a lot of people who do flex commutes and aren't necessarily getting there.
And I think that
You're not gonna get me there
corridor,
at 7 o'clock.
Right.
yeah, a lot of people are discovering that whole corridor now that it's been finished for a while. And
Yeah.
so-
Well, once they opened it up into Berkeley, it made a
Exactly.
huge difference, and,
That's right. Yep.
you know, now I think we're getting people parking nearby and walking their kids in strollers and their dogs, it feels like.
Huh.
Instead of stray dogs in packs.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Straight
just-
humans and pets.
Jen?
My kids missed getting a sticker that they could wear that day that said, I bike to work and, or
We
bike
ran
to
out of
school. Oh, did we run out? I didn't know, but in past years they've had it and they have it on their helmets, but they didn't get one this year and they're like, nobody knew that
I was bummed too. I
Okay.
my sticker.
Yeah, it seemed like we
People at work had stickers. I don't know
Yeah,
what
we ran out
happened
of
there.
stickers too.
More stickers.
Yeah, I noticed that when we started unpacking stuff, we started counting things to go to the different stations, we were short on stickers, so I don't know.
Maybe that's
Okay.
key.
Yeah, all right, well, that's feedback to give to Cynthia.
And I mean, Sarah, I think this was you who put in that having a bigger ride, you know, for council, it was pretty lonely this year, although I was
Yeah.
glad to have you there.
Yeah.
And yeah, why not open it up and have a little parade that goes from Energizer
Yeah, have all
Station?
staff and anyone on committees who's
That's a
serving, I
great
think that would
idea.
be really great, Can just have a community ride,
Yeah.
you know, open it up.
Say 8 AM, meet at City Hall, yeah.
Yeah, I think
it'd
that'd
be
be
part of your
really
workday,
lovely,
too.
so
You get paid
Yeah.
for it.
I think we'll do that.
I already bike to work day, here I am.
So I think we'll do that next year, and I'll definitely work on organizing that next
Not
year.
here.
And related to that, I just want to let everybody know, I think last time, well, you know what, I'll wait till I have my comment occur. Never mind, let's finish this agenda item.
Yeah.
We're done with bike to work day?
Yeah. Well, I think big bad passed in order, it went well.
Good job.
Okay, so our next is staff comments, planning department review and update.
Yeah, I don't have many updates this month, which you'll be glad about, I'm sure. But one of them that I did want to mention related to our last item was that our City of Emeryville participates in the Team Bike Challenge, and we participate staff as a company. And that I've been tracking how all the cities who are participating are doing. And our champion this year is the City of Richmond, which so far has more miles pedaled than us, but we have more points. So of all the cities participating in the Bay Area, the City of Emeryville staff has the most points in the Team Bike Challenge and the second most bike miles.
More than
So,
San Francisco?
yeah, they're not participating as a city.
Oh.
They have like
They have
SFMTA,
departments.
yeah, they have some department, but as a city, so I looked at anybody with the name city in it. And then in all categories, so if you look at all counties and all companies participating, or everyone in Alameda County, or just medium-sized companies, which Emeryville qualifies as, in all of those, we have ranked in the top third.
Wow.
So I think staff consistently, for the first time I think I helped with it was like 5 years ago when I was an intern. I think we've consistently been at the top every year, and so I just think that's reflective of staff's dedication to biking in the community. I just wanted to put that out there. So I'm really excited
Amazing,
about
we
it.
could go back in time to 20 years, there's open hostility from the staff against bicycling. Remember that, Scott?
Times
It was
do
hostile.
Well,
Remember like Harry Hecht and all those guys? Yeah, it was
yeah, a
hostile.
little bit, yeah.
It was.
John Flores was open to trying it out.
Yeah, he used the first crack, but before, but I'm talking pre-Flores, Harry Hecht, remember all those guys? They were hostile to biking.
Times change.
Okay, so,
Boy, that changed a lot.
are we on to agenda meeting items for the next meeting, perhaps?
Oh, I had one more thing, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
In terms of the East Bay Bridge Center, the last meeting was requested to know when it was going to go to Planning Commission next time so people could look at the plans. And I believe at this time it will probably go to the July Planning Commission, so it should be available about 2 weeks, a week before that. So
Was it just facade improvement?
facade improvements, but there was concern about the drive aisle in front of it and traffic speeds and locations of the bike parking. Those were things that were all brought up by the planning
How about
commissioners.
trees in the parking lot?
What was that?
How about trees in the parking lot?
The whole parking lot in its entirety is not going to be addressed as part of this application, but the drive aisle area is, and they are planting more trees for that area. So,
Are they gonna move the parking that's there now, or add to it, or change it, or
No.
something? Oh, okay.
no, it's really about the facade. So that's why this didn't come to the BPAC in the first place, is because it's really just a design thing. But as part of that, planning commission requested that the project address the drive aisle and the speeds going on there. That was raised as a concern. And so I will make sure that BPAC gets forwarded the plans before it goes to planning commission in case you would like to send your comments.
They also had discussion about the bicycle parking.
Yes.
Just to improve, or maybe you were about to say that.
Yeah, so it was addressing the drive aisle speed, it was addressing the locations of the proposed bike parking. They're increasing the amount of bike parking, but what planning commission was concerned about was where it was located and that it didn't interrupt pedestrian flow, and then just overall pedestrian safety and interaction with the drive aisle going in front of the facade. So
I have to say that part of the East Bay Plaza does better with bike parking than a lot of the other locations, which have little or none, some of them.
Like
Even
Trader
though-
Joe's.
Well, yeah, Trader Joe's and the pet store and Office Depot, there's a railing you can park through there, but they.
So that's not part of the same
Oh, it's not part of
East
the
Bay
same
Bridge,
bridge.
it's a
But
separate
yeah,
little
just-
section.
Anyway.
Also all in Oakland.
And it's also a
Yeah.
section that doesn't include the Home Depot, it doesn't include that end of it, it just includes
It's
that
its own little
area
thing.
Yeah.
at the very beginning.
So they are going to be increasing the bike parking though there.
Right. Oh, are they? Oh, good.
I mean, well, as part of this one section, it's 3839 Emery is the address for
Okay,
it.
for this section.
For this
That's
section,
great.
it will be, it's mandated that they increase the bike.
Great, cool.
All right, now I'm all done.
Okay. Agenda items for the next meeting?
So I just put this on here for, well, a couple reasons. Jennifer was asking earlier about the bike share, it was in the minutes that I mentioned we were gonna take that up this time. And Campbell Washington, who is an assistant to the city manager that's focusing on projects, this being one of them, just hadn't had the time yet, she's part-time, she hadn't had the time yet to connect up with MTC and with the other cities. And there just isn't, you know, it's not like she missed the boat or anything, it just isn't that much going on right now, so she just wanted to wait till next time, so that'll be on the July agenda. But I also wanted to see if there's anything else.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything going on with the Star intersection project? Like, when is construction happening on that? Is there any other stuff going on that we should weigh in on, or is it just done? You know, Adeline and San Pablo?
I read the SIP program includes a page on that, and it said that it was, I think it said construction's gonna commence by the end of 2014 or something.
Oh, okay, so it's.
Yeah, it's going
So
for
it's just-
award on the 17th.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so it's moving.
We bid it out,
Okay,
17th of June?
yes, that's it.
so it'll be under construction.
Do you want your
That
transparency
and the
item
Safe
on
Routes to
next
Schools
month?
portion on San Pablo,
Maybe.
is that also?
Let me think about
That's
that.
lagging.
Depends on how opaque things get.
Yeah, well, no, I need to talk to Maurice.
I have an issue too that we could look at. Or do you have more?
For next agenda?
Yeah, or just sometime coming up. I've been watching the intersection at Christie and Powell. We talked about it recently, it's where the new bike path is going through. And I've been watching the way it is currently, and I just feel like that particular crossing is extremely hazardous. And the only reason we haven't had more accidents there is that almost no pedestrians use it. There's no way to cross safely, because when you get the walk sign, you're
Cars are
walking,
turning right.
2 lanes of
Should
cars.
say scurry.
No, it should say car stop, because 2 lanes of cars are turning. One of those lanes is a dedicated turn lane. They have a green
Yep.
light, they're flying off the freeway around the
Right.
corner. And the last thing they expect is that a pedestrian is gonna step off the sidewalk. And the pedestrian, there's no really safe way to
Let
look
them know.
backwards.
Right, you can't have to walk out like this.
Well, and even crossing, I very rarely but occasionally cross that crossing going west. And it's very easy to get halfway across the crossing, and then it's very hard to get the rest of the way. And I've often just sort of stopped and gone over to that little island,
Yeah.
which I understand we're now planning to take out. And sometimes I have to wait until the light changes, and then I cross against the light the rest of the way, making sure no cars are coming towards me in the oncoming traffic. Because you have to be able to catch the eyes of 2 turning lanes of cars before you can cross. So you just wait until the light changes and then you go against the light.
So you're right in front of Marshall's and.
Yeah.
Yeah, the extra striping crosswalk that Sarah's.
It's the extension of the Bay Trail, right?
She was talking about crossing Powell, was she not?
Okay.
No, I think
So-
we're talking about
Crossing
crossing Christie.
So-
This is Christie. Going east across.
So going here, so if you're stepping off here, the car is going like
Yeah,
this.
2 lanes to.
Yeah.
And then you're facing that way, and they will hit you. We
And-
actually just had a big discussion of this as part of the discussion of the design for the two-way,
Right.
the cycle track that's going there, and what we were told by staff is there's nothing they can do about it.
Well,
They're not
that's-
gonna slow the cars
you know,
down.
I think it
I think that the crossing, if there's nothing they can do, then it shouldn't be.
They won't do anything until somebody gets killed.
I think we should bring it up again. I think we should talk about it on its own as part of that.
$3 or $4
Why
million
not? No,
settlement.
there are a couple of things that, easy suggestions that
Then
can
they'll
be
just
done
survive,
that would help the issue.
Like you could have
But
a,
I'm suggesting we all take a look at it.
Savage.
Yeah,
I
the corner
agree.
could be squared off, or you can have it all red.
We
And that would help.
asked for both of those things.
I know they said we couldn't do it, but that
Let's keep
doesn't mean we
asking.
can't do it.
Right, yeah, let's keep asking and we'll wear them down.
Okay, so
So
other,
just go take a look.
I totally agree with you, Celeste,
So-
it's a terrible
So
intersection.
Celeste, want to have this on an agenda July, August?
Actually, not July, because I'll be away.
Okay.
well, you know, other agenda, I mean, you were talking about intersections here, but most of the time when I'm riding my bike, I'm going north into Berkeley. And at the Greenway, it's 65th, 66th, and 66th, especially at 65th, it's a terrible intersection.
so,
Because you've got cyclists that think they have the right of way, and they do not. You have pedestrians that have the right of way, and they're not always granted the right of way. And you got some of the worst drivers in Emeryville going up and down 65th Street, I think.
so this has come to the Transportation Committee recently, and there is a SIP project, also a page that describes looking at additional traffic calming,
Yeah, I
but
think
it's not
that
just traffic
some
calming,
sort of,
it's a right-of-way issue.
Yeah.
right,
Well,
well,
there's
yeah,
signs.
that's,
There are
I think it
signs,
needs
but
to
it's not
say,
enough.
it needs to say yield, it doesn't need to say yield to pedestrians, because the cyclists are still acting as if they have the right of way,
Right.
and they don't.
So
Well,
if it hasn't
And I
come to
think that
DPAC,
taking some parking away and and
Yeah.
maybe it's 66 and 67, one of them could be closed off. And another one could be a traffic circle or something like that.
Well,
I'm just
Because that's gonna
wondering
get
when-
more and more
Wait,
used.
hold on, we don't
Should-
need to discuss, we just need to, we're talking about, should we put on?
I just wanna put something
But
like
should
a
the time-
discussion like
Should the
that.
timing for the agenda item be maybe once it's in the CIP and we
so
have,
the CIP is gonna be voted on tomorrow night, and if you feel strongly about it, I mean, it looks like everything can kind of be funded according to how the staff recommendations, but you might wanna speak to these items, before the council tomorrow night. Cause I know it's important, or send an email. But do speak up, because these are important.
Yeah, I think that we should start studying those little intersections that,
And the timing, you could look at the project, I don't recall what year it said that it would be, looked at.
another item?
No, I wanted to go to talk about community, I had one really quick comment, community member comments. Are we
You're
there?
not a
Are you
community,
done?
you're not a community member, you're a committee member.
Committee man, I might say.
Okay, are we done with adding a couple of agenda items?
Well, you know what I would say is, I would love, I actually just did a bunch of interviews about walkability, and I would love for us to come back to that topic. If we have time, I don't think it's super urgent, but I do think it would be nice for us to come up with some kind of definition of what does walkability mean as a committee. And I have a few talking points from talking to various people from the article that I wrote, and I would be happy to bring those in for the committee to talk about and see if we agree. I feel like I have a little better.
so you would lead?
Well, you know
I
what?
would be happy to do that.
On that item,
So-
on that item, I suggested a couple of months ago that we take a look at what's called the PECI, which is a pedestrian environmental quality thing that they're using in San Francisco to analyze that,
Oh, okay.
and that's something we ought to look at.
What did you say again?
It's called the PECI, pedestrian environmental quality action that they have in San
Pedestrian environmental quality, what's the last one?
Scale?
Right, index, pedestrian environmental quality index. I saw a webinar on that, very interesting.
Adding something is, I already have an
Okay,
item that's listed.
and there's also, walk score, there's a bunch of things out there, that's much
Did you
more.
have a time that you wanted it on an agenda?
I'm not gonna be here in August, so that would be I couldn't talk about it in August, but if there's time, I just would love for that to be in the hopper. Cause I think that would be a
Okay.
good thing for us to keep talking about.
All right, well, I'll send out agendas asking people. The item that you were talking about, is that something that's on the list you're saying?
Yeah.
And is there a time that you want to, like a month that you want to?
I'm completely open, so I've had an open item where, I can bring
The use of green paint?
discussion about green paint,
Oh, great.
specific locations where it could be applied in every.
So maybe when we have a slow month, okay.
Oh, speaking of slow months and heavy months, I remember getting an email from you saying that we had 130 minutes on our meeting or something like that. Maybe we should try to,
It got shortened.
I know, maybe we should try to keep it at 100 minutes and then, because we run
Because we
late
have
on all this
overflow.
stuff, then
That's a good-
go
good-
from there,
Okay.
if we can.
Member comment.
Committee member comments, you
Yeah, I
guys.
just want to say really quick, we, old timers on the committee will remember how we have expressed a lot of dismay over the class 1 bike path that's also the Bay Trail along the frontage road. It's great coming down from Point Emery Spit until you get to Shorebird Park, it's wonderful. Then it turns sort of not as good in Shorebird Park, and then it turns into a nightmare, and it's just basically a sidewalk, and it's not even continuous, it's sharp 90-degree turns that bicyclists have to make, and then you get onto the sidewalk south of there, and it gets a lot of cars are going over the sidewalk, only a lot for the Shell station, for the hotel, and so we've expressed a lot of dismay over this. So Shell has just redesigned, their station, and we talked about this many months ago. And there were comments here about how we'd rather not have the cars go over the bike trail, can you have them just come on from Powell? And they said no, and then we said, oh well, some people were disappointed a little bit. But, okay, that happened. So that was sort of a loss in terms of, because we had an opportunity to maybe make it a little better from a bicycling pedestrian standpoint, but we lost. It was a minor loss. But Charlie Bryant, our Charlie Bryant is touting about how wonderful that is for bicycles at Shell Station. He says it's the most bicycle-friendly service station in America. I just want to announce Charlie said that, so it just shows like a major diversity of opinion
The service station itself.
within the staff. Like, we think it's bad.
Well,
He thinks it's
maybe it is the
wonderful.
most bicycle-friendly service.
Well, he thinks it's wonderful, and we think
Because
it's
gas stations are
terrible.
not bicycle.
Well,
Well, I mean, it's
they actually did cut out one of the exits instead of like 3 or 4.
Yeah, but we wanted nothing, we wanted no cars going across
Well,
there,
I mean,
and
you
we,
can't have a
and
gas
they,
station
we,
without
yeah, we
it.
lost on that, when it was
But I think
unanimous.
they also
And
added,
so we
did
think
they
it's
add
terrible. Charlie
facilities,
thinks
they
it's
added bike
wonderful.
parking and bathrooms for the bicyclists?
Yeah, they did some stuff, but my
Yeah,
point is.
I think that's what he's probably.
And a fix-it
And we think,
station.
but we lost on it at that point, on the bikes going, but it's still being touted by staff, this high-level staff members, a wonderful thing for bicyclists, and it's like, oh, this is, we can't ever seem to,
There's another SIP project to improve that stretch of the Bay Trail there as well. I'm gonna miss the July meeting, I won't be in town next month, so I don't know if there's an alternate council member liaison, but I should.
Are we done?